We are live. Welcome to the Window to Our Mind podcast number 8, Peer Pressure and its Effect on People. How are you, D-Lord? I guess D-Lord is away. How are you,
He's
Gray?
quiet. I'm doing great, man. I'm always excited to talk about peer pressure. Nobody's forced me to talk about this, but I'm excited. It's a great day. I got my coffee. Let's do this. Yeah, exciting.
And for those who are wondering where's DC, things happened, and this week he won't be able to make it this Wednesday, but we will see him on Monday for the tier list of the TV shows. Maybe Tuesday, but it's less likely next Tuesday. But he will be able to make it to Wednesday. So next Wednesday he will be with us. It's just this week. So let's do this. D Lord, are you back with us, or you're still away? Um, I also sent.
The Lord has been called away. That's fine. Sorry for cutting you off. What were you saying,
That's
Wolfie?
fine. I sent the link to Miss Sparkle, and I feel like I will
Oh,
always send
nice.
her the link because I feel like she added something last week, and
Oh,
having
for
her
sure.
perspective,
That was awesome of her to join us.
yeah, having her perspective on stuff is always interesting and entertaining. The more guests
For
we
sure.
have, the better it can be, and it's a bit sad because she said, "Oh, I don't know if I can add something." And I'm like, "You can always add something. Someone just showing up, it's adding something." So when people are
For
like
sure.
that, I'm like, "Don't be too hard on yourself." I can't get that feeling, but don't. Anyhow, um, let's start off with the first question. Um, Number one, what is peer pressure, Gray?
Well, I think it's kind of been redefined over the last few years. Like, I think, generally it was seen as, essentially being forced into a position because, generally it would be friends or peers that are kind of pushing you in that direction. So it's kind of adopting a position you didn't want to kind of join the crowd. Uh, that used to be a little bit more different. You had to actually be in a crowd, or you had to. So you had to physically be there, or somebody had to physically be talking to you from like a phone. So you'd have to be like at your landline. That's really changed and completely redefined with our modern era, if you will. I don't know. Now you've got access to the internet to a virtual mob at any time. Um, I think one of the things that you would run into with peer pressure is mob mentality. And, once you get a whole group of people riled up, they kind of egg each other on. I think a lot of that is peer pressure. I think if you had any one of these people individually, they would not be doing the acts that they're doing. They wouldn't feel comfortable with blatant disregard for social norms that they get into when they are in that group. So I think, long story short, it is essentially social pressure that makes you adopt a position that you didn't previously hold. Um, but we can go more into that with the additional questions.
I really like your answer, and this spawned in my mind uh, a improvised question for you because I do like that take on it. Why do you think I chose that topic for this week?
I'm honestly not sure. You're an insightful young man. I'm not sure why exactly you chose it. I'm sure there is a relevance, but I'm being a little obtuse right now. I'm not necessarily seeing it. I know I have run into it myself, and all of us have kind of, in one of our podcasts or another, have kind of stood against everybody else and kind of stood up to peer pressure. But I don't know. I think I'm missing the intention. Could you enlighten me, please?
Yeah, but just before that, that was what I planned at some point. Now I've seen like D Lord showing like unmute, unmute. So you're back with us now. You're done eating and phone call.
Sorry, I was just it's that time of it's Thanksgiving Eve for us American people, sir.
Oh, that's fine. I fully understand. We don't
I
celebrate that here, but I get it. That's like a party to be thankful of
Do you guys not have
stuff.
the So I know, like, Canadian. When I was in Vancouver,
No,
they
they
did like
have
Canadian
Boxing
Thanksgiving in
Day.
October. Well, no, that's the day after Christmas. But like there was Canadian Thanksgiving. Is it not like a French Canadian thing?
Um, it's not in November, and
Yeah, it's the
it's
October one.
it
But
depends on the families. Like I think it's much more in the English Canada part, because
oh,
in my part, like in Quebec, the best we get out of it is a holiday where we get paid like extra
hmm.
money, but we don't really celebrate it. We have it on our schedule, on our calendar, but we don't celebrate it. So basically we have that day that is considered like a holiday, but we don't really do anything about it.
That's a shame. It's kind of one of the funner holidays. You kind of reflect on things that you're thankful for. You know, like I don't know. It's kind of nice compared to some of the more, you know, I guess you'd call it like marketed holidays. I guess you still have to buy like huge meals and everything, but I don't know. It seems a little different. It's a little nicer than some of the other more commercial holidays, but that's a shame. I pretty much have just spent time in Vancouver and Calgary, so like
That's the
I don't
English
know.
part.
I experienced so I experienced it there, but yeah, it was definitely left coast,
I
so
I
it's a little
I
different.
think like Canada is heavily influenced by America, and Quebec is we are more isolated, because a lot of the parts in Quebec, as I said in the past, they don't get along with English people. Like if you go countryside, uh, they are really like right leaning, but French people right leaning. So they are very conservative, but their conservative is like French conservative. That's a weird place, but
So left wing Europeans.
um, yeah, maybe. I don't
Kind
know
of, they're
about
their
Europe.
own thing, though, man. Like, I don't know. They're their own thing, man. They tried to literally be their own country, which was kind of awesome. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
that's what we
interesting.
tried. That's what we tried, and we failed miserably. But
You know
we
what?
tried. We tried.
No, so it's the it's not quite the what is right wing is. What is right wing here is left wing in Europe, basically kind of concept.
Yeah. I
Except
don't
you
know about
guys,
Europe, but yeah.
except for the fact, I now, you
So
know, I would say like on peer pressure, right?
yeah,
I would say, by the way, sorry, I thought it was like it was delaying people, but the it is more prevalent now because people want to be the cool kids kind of thing, because
yeah.
it's TikTok makes things more popular, or it's more or less, following trends versus being the outsider or liking you for who you are, because social media is used for that.
So I will ask you, D Lord, what is peer pressure for you?
Usually, if your friends try to pressure you into stuff, but that usually doesn't work with me.
It also doesn't work on me. We are the same on that. Um, so now I will answer. Great question about why did I pick this topic. Um, what stuff? We will see.
The
Because
80s
my
movie, The Stuff. It's a great
yeah.
movie.
Um, so I got that playlist of clip we can pick from for this podcast, and I shared it on our chat of us three, Gray, DC, and I. So maybe once we get into that video part, I will let you pick and choose which video on that playlist we could cover. Because my potato computer is really annoying today. Um, I feel I like Chud's better. Okay, if you say so. um,
Cannibalistic humanoid underdwellers. Yeah, they're great. They're okay. There's some other ones out there. Ghoulies. They're all fun.
Look,
anyhow,
I have
that
to I have to say this. I find your accent and your butchering of the English language adorable. How you say characters is it's it makes me chuckle, by the way. It's and I know you can't help it.
I can't. It's
It is
just two
literally the,
ways to speak. Like French and English, we like the way we place our tongue, or I don't know what's going on, but like we use similar word, but the pronunciation is so different. But
characters. Like I'm
um
just like you find extra vowels to
anyhow, um so I picked this topic because it's a very fascinating topic. I think there's a lot of layers and stuff we can talk about when we speak about peer pressure. And you said it on the internet, it's more like common to have that kind of tribalism, if we can call it that way. Is that the right word? Where people like will hate you because of your point of view, and they will like say you're you're with us or you're against us, that kind of stuff. And
Oh yeah,
this is
it's
something we need to talk about, because eventually, if we end up finally finding a left-leaning person willing to stream and have a discussion, not a debate, well, we will have at least talked about peer pressure prior.
I happened to take a political test last Thursday, and apparently I'm a left liberal. But yeah, I don't think that was accurate, and I wouldn't feel comfortable fully adopting those positions. But yeah, if we could get somebody even more left, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
like as I said in the past, um, we can see and understand the left, right? But since we are not really sharing fully that view, since we are not really sitting on that hill and say we are leftist, I will feel like the left will be misrepresented, and I feel like
For sure.
they have every right to be represented the same way um, the right wing.
That's why it said left liberal on the thing that I got. It was specific, but yes, no, I fully agree with you. I don't think I would call myself that, so I wouldn't be comfortable like championing that position. Where it would be much, more authentic to have somebody who does identify that way. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It makes
Like I
sense.
will give you a good example. I think feminism is irrelevant in 2023, at least in the USA and Canada, because I know we have all the same rights. So it's irrelevant. It's not something I stand by anymore here. But I can see why it's still a thing, like in Africa or in other country in Asia and that kind of stuff, because there women don't have all the same rights. So
I don't know, man. I so maybe I am a little bit more left because with the rise of like this red pill thing, I can totally see that you need something to combat that. Like if you're gonna have like the far like whatever men can sleep around, but if a woman even like looks at another man, she is a slut. She belongs in the kitchen. Like I've heard a bunch of weird stuff come from like these so-called red pillars. I don't know, man. I think if they're gonna spew that, then let some chick who doesn't want to shave her armpits spew her thing as well. I think if you're gonna have that extreme, you should have the opposite. But I get what you're saying.
yeah,
I do think that we do have a very I don't know if it's quite egalitarian the view on the law, but perhaps we are not the same, and that's why the outcomes are not exactly the same. When you break it down by sex, like how many offenders are arrested versus, you know, the severity of the crime. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, I think if anyone wants to be an advocate for certain rights, like that's their right to do it. I don't know that they all have the same need for everybody else, but I don't know. That's kind of a weird tangent.
yeah. But yeah. So to go back at peer pressure, it's as I said, a fascinating topic, and this also links to my sociology class I had in the past. So one of the takeaway I had from that class is society is built on community, and how it goes is the family unit will influence you. So it like these are your peers. Like at some extent, it's different. Like daddy, mommy are not exactly your equal because they are your parents, but you know where I'm getting at. Like they influence you, and friends are another thing that influence you and that shapes society. So family shapes society, friends shape society, all your exchange with other people influence society. So this is like a thing. Like if you have parents a certain way, uh you're not doomed to repeat that, but you will have that blueprint you will try to follow. But some people want to break away from it because they realize it's wrong. But a lot of people will be tempted into just following the blueprint daddy and mommy left behind, and at some extent, this is pressure. And it's just a fascinating subject, topic, whatever. So I basically answered a bit what is peer pressure there. It's basically people influencing each other, either on internet platform like YouTube or Twitter to some extent. I don't spend much time on Twitter because I think that platform is brain dead and a lot of stupid things are happening. I mainly use that like to read message because I know some people use that. Um,
But then where do you start fights with people?
Look, if you assume red pillars, right? Let's say whatever. Let's say whatever is peer pressure and comes into what trends on social media as well, which you can kind of lump together. Because social media is very interesting because you see the pushback for it as it stands now. But I remember the time when you looked at something like earlier YouTube, or you looked at something like Vine, which was like short videos, then you see that transcend then to like Twitter, what you could say. Then you see like TikTok type stuff, right? Because then you see, oh, ice bucket challenges. You're a dumbass.
Yeah. But I mean, we had like MySpace, like whatever, 20 years ago or something like that. I don't know. Then you had to like rank your friends. Like you've got like 5 of them you can display or something like that. Like I don't know. There was weirdness and like peer pressure before as well. But yeah, now everybody has a device like on their person at all times. Like it's not just you have to either be in a group of people or have your group of friends or be somewhere where they can contact you. Like now you're being peer pressured at all times. Like it is different.
Or you
I
just
don't know.
think,
I would like to think I was more
or
sheltered as
you
a kid.
just look at certain type of. I'm not saying leftism is how leftoids evolved. Like, I mean, I've heard this.
At least you think they've evolved.
I've heard this. It's true. What would it be? I'm an evil conservative that I don't believe in evolution.
You never know, man. I've heard things.
You can laugh, Multi. That was a joke.
Okay.
It's all jokes. But yeah, no, it's just kind of interesting. I don't feel like I had to deal with it 24/7, where I feel like everyone has a device on them all the time now. Like even your watch tells you, well, okay, I don't know if your guys' watch does. Mine's super cool. It tells me when I get tweets and shit. It's weird.
Okay.
Like I don't know. There is no
You have that Galaxy.
there is
watch.
no shelter from
You
it.
have
Like
that Galaxy
I feel like there
watch.
is peer pressure at all times now,
I-
where I don't feel like I felt that before.
I agree with you, Gray, and like when I was younger and I was away from social media and that kind of stuff, and when it was less popular, I felt like more free. But now that I am on that, I feel like everyone is watching what I'm sharing, what I'm posting, what I'm doing, and they will judge you and me and stuff. And so I'm like, should I like share that shit? Should I like? It's always a question. I'm like, they will judge you. They will think something wrong.
But I feel like I never had the question or the urge to like publicly share something before. But now, like, that feels like it's like an obligation. Like I have to. I don't know. It's weird. Everything has shifted from my sheltered
So I
childhood
would say
where I
something
didn't
like
worry about
this
this.
is more or less like See, I would come up in what is it, game stores or comic stores back in the day, and see cultures are in school, right? Not just because I was more the lone wolf kind of person, so to speak. I find it interesting how I would start seeing people, the millennials coming up. They were more hive minded in terms of how they operated, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
it
it
kind of
does.
does if you like look at the technology that was around at the time as well. Like, I don't know, prior to that, I don't think cell phones were really a thing. So I don't know. Now you do have groups of friends.
So,
It
like
is interesting.
in
I
game
wonder if
store
technology changed that.
settings, you would see people like they would come in, but they'd be as groups, and then they would just network that way. Probably a good portion of them were entirely just toxic assholes, so to speak. But I saw this, and I'm just like, then sometimes in school you would start seeing these. Because, not to date myself, I graduated in '03, so YouTube was still relatively
You.
decent. 2008 YouTube, I kind of miss it. It was a lot funner than now.
All the cat videos.
Oh my word! At least it was more civil in certain aspects. I
When
don't
we
know.
could talk and not being like put on the darker
Well,
place.
if you
Now,
did, if you were contrarian in comment sections, you would have a lot of people who would go, "Why do you watch this?" Not unless you were out of the commentary. But stuff is like peer pressure, like you start seeing like hive mind logic come in.
yeah,
Like, do you not? And it says some of the younger generations that grew up with cell phones, more technologies, you started seeing algorithms. Does that make sense? So
yeah,
it started like people, I've said Zoomers, I say Zoomers have grown up with the most technology ever in modern history, but they are the stupidest because they can't interpret the technology.
yeah,
Doesn't that make sense?
yeah, it does.
So they think certain stuff is cool. One person thinks it's cool, and then that goes out into an algorithm. It's weird, but
The
that's.
more people thinks it's cool, the bigger that algorithm is.
Do you
Uh,
remember? Do
yeah.
you remember when before Elon bought Twitter? That
I don't think I was on the platform. I
so
actually decided to go on Twitter last year, but by the end, well, actually last summer, last year, because I was like, I realized like a lot of people only use that to communicate, and prior to that, I was only using Discord and sometimes Facebook, but Discord was like the main place where I was getting in touch with people. But yeah, I started Twitter last year, so I can't remember when Elon took over. When was that?
was that's a go look exact, but there was the idea that they were tailoring an algorithm to influence stuff. So if you looked in Japan, which is not a very political place at times, even though they have open avowed communism over there, like, especially an active communist party, they had an artificial thing influencing stuff over there. So after that got taken off, lo and behold, most people in Japan only care about anime, manga, and gaming for the most part, or their popular idols.
Oh, that's weird.
Is that weird? When that filter got removed,
Okay.
it wasn't, they did not care about, Japanese politics of the goings on.
Okay. That's interesting.
Do you see how peer pressure and social media can be go hand in hand now?
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
artificially shove something into an algorithm, and this is how people get, like, what do you think is trending on YouTube? Oh, I just
Eightful content or content against
oh,
eightful
I'm
content.
sorry. I'm sorry. YouTube is right leaning promoting. Yes.
But it
Did you?
also does left leaning promoting as well. I think
Okay.
it has a blend of both. It really depends on what channel you're subs to, but I
Okay.
think there's a majority right leaning, but it's obvious that Rumble is much more like that than YouTube. Uh,
Okay.
yeah,
So I use the meme of by certain people like Dane and others on the left. They're like, well, YouTube is a right leaning platform. I'm like, excuse me. This platform is mostly left leaning because if I wasn't introduced to Vosh, I look up something, I would have had Vosh shoved down my throat years ago. BreadTube was promoted over everything. So,
yeah,
and this is not a trend thing. Half the channels I watch aren't even considered conservative, but they're considered right leaning, and they would be shadow banned because that wasn't right thing at the time, and it it forced a lot of peer pressure for a lot of creators to get in line or be buried in content, be buried under shadow bans, and unless someone linked the video, no one watched your video. Like It's a Gundam, Arch
yeah,
Warhammer's community was that way. You had to physically go look these people up.
yeah. And that's funny because now you say that, but I think there are like moment where they where YouTube decides to give the focus on something or something else, and sometimes it's not the right leaning stuff for the channels like It's a Gundam or that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's other channel that are shadow banned in some ways. Like I feel like for a few months now I've been shadow banned at some extent. I don't know all and why. All I see is my number I've dropped. I never did YouTube for numbers, but I still noticed it because my podcast, my stream, my video and stuff, they used to be much better in L tier than now. And like for I'd say like the last month and a half, they were all down. So like
It's, by the way, that not I can expand on that a little because I have my own personal theory about this. Like, so the algorithm has been a little bit different. Everyone talks about it. I've been able to map it to a degree. Like, as a prime example, Arch's main channel was 40K lore. He had 250,000 subs. He got burned by GW, but he never lost that many subs. He started a secondary channel when he took his politics and stuff off of it and started the Archcast, which was smaller. He had double or triple the spread rate of his original channel.
wow.
So even though it's lower sub count, it shows up better in the algorithm than it does his original channel.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? Even my second channel is suffering from that same thing. And my secondary channel is Wanting Advance Wars, which is one of my favorite game IP. And this channel has only Advance Wars content because I knew a lot of people were eager for it. Now I may have another theory for that one because I just don't have as much time as I used to. So I don't upload as much as I used to. But even like the last few uploads, they like the numbers were really down. Like that channel is like 190-ish subs, but like
Hmm.
the average now is like 30, 40 views. And there's a bunch of videos like I had 500s, 600s. They're not all like that. I still used to do like 30 and 40, but when I really used to do these 30 and 40 views, that was when the channel first started and I had less subs. So that's really weird. There are moments where I feel like YouTube decides, okay, this channel will be on the spotlight, but then when it's no more on the spotlight, they really place it in a dark place where nobody really find stuff, even the people that are sub to it. I feel like when you're sub to a channel, it doesn't mean much anymore because YouTube doesn't always tell you, oh, you're the guy you're sub to uploaded something. Uh, anyhow, that was a quite long tangent there.
But
Um,
yeah, I will say for people who hear that is you're seeing social media companies influence a market. It's relatively easy to do because uh, Google started spreading. Like, if I've always said, if Google wants it trending that the moon is made of cheese, they could change that.
yeah,
And you want to see a very interesting example of this. Prior to the recent fun in the Middle East,
yeah,
uh, certain groups were had a sudden there was a sudden trend in Google where they were calling them the religion of peace. Does
yeah.
that give you an idea how easy you could take peer pressure or change it based on the time if someone's uneducated using social media?
I think it's easier to peer pressure someone that's not educated because he has no reference, and sometimes their critical thinking is not as developed as someone that has studied.
For sure. And I'm not denying the concept that you're talking about. I just don't know if that's necessarily peer pressure. Like Google is not our peer; it is our lord and overmaster. I don't know. I'm just not sure if that's a peer where like I think we're more talking about like and you're right, it could be through algorithmically like propping up one person's notion, but it kind of seems more like people are getting swept up in like mobs today, like
Yeah,
cancellation, for example.
yeah,
That seems like a bunch of peer pressure. Like, would you normally go after some comedian that you don't usually know just because they said something that's a joke? Like, no, but if you get swept up in a bunch of people, I don't know. It just seems like it would be a lot easier to fall to peer pressure today, but
yeah.
perhaps I'm looking through nostalgia glasses.
And
Okay.
based on what you said, I have like two different comedian popping in my mind, and that's very interesting because it's always like I feel like it's always the same people that go after that kind of comedian, and this is also why I don't think I'm left leaning because, like I I disagree with their approach. Like canceling people is just wrong. Now I will sound like I contradict myself because I truly hate some actors like Ezra Miller and Amber Heard, but my nuance there is people can do stupid stuff as long as they learn from it and they change to strive to be better. And if you don't do that, then that's on you. But even there, like comedian they are there to offend at some extent sometimes because that's a
For
easy
sure.
way to like make people laugh. So maybe I would like won't really take what they say as seriously as someone that's not a humorist. So that's also all I see stuff. Maybe I'm
I
crazy.
don't think that's being hypocritical or anything like that, though, because like you're not saying like Ezra Miller or now I'm forgetting her name, Amber Heard. You're not saying that they should never have a job. You're just saying that you don't like them. So
Yeah,
it seems more like you're not supporting them.
yeah,
Where like some of these other people, like they weren't supporting the comedian before, but now they're getting everybody together and getting their outrage torches
yeah,
and trying to get somebody fired from their current job or dropped or get Netflix to drop their special. Something like that. So I don't know. I think there's a bigger
See,
distinction than just
I
yeah,
would have
I don't know. I wouldn't call it
I would
hypocritical at
have
all.
the discussion about cancellation is borderline may not pure 100% be peer pressure, but I do see like in certain debates, it's very interesting how they flow.
yeah,
Like if you look at like Twitter or X, whatever you call it, uh, how the arguments go. Sometimes you see the same people as usually what's funny if you're in a crowd, you see it, they take one opinion and they run with it. because they think that's a popular opinion of the day. Because there's an entire crowd. Because if I said, like, a character, a short anime character that looks like a young girl is not in fact, but there's people who started running with that narrative and they said, oh, that's other behavior. And I'm just like, but that wasn't the case 3 years ago, till somebody jumped on a bandwagon. And if you go against that narrative, you're called a degenerate. Does that make sense, Multi?
Yeah, and I think that kind of tribalism is really stupid. Like if you support like Amber Heard or Ezra Miller, even if I hate both, I won't judge you. I will let you do your own stuff, and like they can do whatever they want, but I won't support them, and I don't like um them being the way they are. That's why I don't support them, but I won't go out of my way to say, oh, cancel them. No, that like I feel like they should learn from that even if they won't, but they like I'm someone that really believe that people should work on themselves a lot. If you do shit like that, like you have issues. And I got another example, and that would be Mangs. He's a content creator out there, and he makes so many like inappropriate joke that reflect that this guy never grew up really, and he did really inappropriate things, and it's known from the internet and everywhere, and now he wears that as some kind of badge of honor because he's using jokes that allude to it. So anyhow, um I believe that people do their own stuff, but when you have a platform, be aware that man, everyone look at you like really in depth to cancel you, whatever, or what you do matter because you influence people. I think that's what
And to give you
I
a
think.
rough idea as well, I will say, even though when I was younger, I was like, yeah, so in my life, I go, in my lifetime, we'll see the legalization of marijuana, right? Well, I'm like, okay, that's about there, even in conservative states. I live in Texas. It's not like we're gonna have full legalization, but we have the medical marijuana like thing. I'm like, but I feel like that was more interesting in the peer pressure because we go, okay, stoners were adorable back in the day, but they're still stupid because,
Yeah, but like back in the day, you didn't have like everything that they have now. Now it's like really powerful
but you
compared to
had, you see the peer pressure of like, I feel like Gen Xers, like 90s, even though we were, I feel like at least through the early 2000s, we were smart enough not to like spread STDs. We were, things dropped, culture was better. You had Fresh Prince. We're just like, well, okay, this made more sense. We saw a borderline into racism and like certain stuff like this. Then something happened. It wasn't just trending to be a drug addict. It's trendy to be a degenerate. And I'm just like, and I'm just like, OnlyFans? Like, I remember when Ashley Madison popped up and everyone was like, nah. If you remember that time, and apparently that's acceptable now. Not because its society changed, because trends changed. Marriage went down. Like in terms of drug use became cool. You saw friends do it. Not that Half Baked was a great movie.
I was gonna say, like in the '90s, that was going on. You also had like Train Spotting. I mean, that didn't exactly glamorize it, but I don't know. There was the whole like heroin chic like model look. I don't know. I think it was kind of glamorized then too. I think there was peer pressure in both decades. Now it might be a little bit more different, but I don't know. I think we might have more stupid people now, but maybe that's just me.
No, it's not just you. I think it's really trending because now people go less in schools. I know that based on my experience in Quebec. I don't know how much it's true in USA, but um, there's this people going at school, and the other factor would be social media, because we have like sometimes influencers that are really stupid, and people are still following them because stupid, and because you have more models that are really stupid, then you have more people that will end up being stupid because of them. I don't know how many times I said stupid. I wish I could like showcase that comment there, but my computer is potato right now. Um,
Do you, Gray could highlight? Well, I guess it's
Highlight, yeah, maybe you can highlight it. Yeah, thank you,
sure.
Gray. So yeah, um,
So you see a culture, right? You see it, so your friends. Like take vaping as an example.
yeah.
I every mother and their child vapes now.
Well, yeah, it's so tasty,
And
and it
they
makes you
don't
cool.
even
Have you seen
smoke.
the clouds?
Look,
These vapes are so annoying. I truly hate them as a security agent.
you know what's sad though about that is half of them don't even smoke. I know people who put stuff in them otherwise. And I'm just like, so just to give you an idea, I used to have a friend because he used to be like vaping was smaller. You guess makes me feel older. We used to say vaping was like, oh, you want to suck something? Understand? You can
I mean,
laugh.
there were trends that were like that. Like it's coming back, the like Banky thing. If I remember right, like early 2000s, there was like this thing of like ravers using like Bankies. And now apparently I just read the other day that that's coming back and people's teeth are being messed up from like teenage Banky use, pacifier use. I don't know. That it's weird, man. I'm just saying, as somebody who's been around a bunch of people that smoke and a bunch of people that vape, and like I've been in a bunch of clubs when you could smoke in them, vaping is so much better. I would
I'll
take that
agree.
hands down
You,
any
you
day.
don't smell
Like,
like you
I
don't.
don't know.
It is true. You're not going to quite smell like you come. Then again, I come from the era when if you don't have you ever like because I was raised by my grandparents. My grandfather used to go to the. I'd go with him down to the Waffle House when he lived down where he was. And my mother would be like, "You should come home. You smell like an ashtray."
Oh wow,
I'm like,
that's sorry.
Well, it was weird. They used to have a smoking section in the restaurant, but like there was no like door or wall or something that separated it. It's just like, yeah, the people who smoke are on this side of the room. It was weird. I do remember that for like a few years of my childhood.
"What?
But
You
yeah,
remember?
I don't know.
You occasionally go back from places you just smell like literally like an ashtray, and I guess that disappeared. Uh,
Oh
what
yeah.
about
Well,
eh,
I did some tours around the U.S. like with my band, and yeah, the smoking laws were different in every state, but yeah, the worst ones that I'd hate were just like those smoke boxes that it was bad. Where I got to be honest, like every time I go to a show now, I see a bunch of people vaping, but it's not the same. Like it's quite
it's like
enjoyable to me.
I
But
compare vaping as a trend, and a lot of people I know who do it, they just do it because, not because they smoke. I'm like, oh, I want something different. They see their friends do it. I live in an area with high schools, and there's just people who vape just to vape. Then they develop that addicting behavior, and they feel
I
left out.
wonder. So do you think anything trendy is just because of peer pressure? Like so vaping, the only reason why I wonder on that is because like I've known a bunch of people that used it to get off of cigarettes. And I mean you're still getting that nicotine fix. But something like a fidget spinner, like come on, like why did we all want or the collective we, I'm not saying everybody on here owned a fidget spinner, but why was that appealing to anybody? Just this, it's like the propeller beanie, but for your
Okay,
hand. Like I don't know.
okay. I will actually say
It's
the
cheap.
person who made that. The beauty of that was I heard Arch the other day, like he was just doing something randomly. Then he heard, oh yeah, if you heard something drop and hit the desk, that was my fidget spinner. I have to because he's like talking or something. He has to have something in his hand, like he's at ADHD.
I
And
get
it's
it. I
like
used to like randomly click a pen until I realized how annoying that was.
I'm just like, but that's the proper use of the fidget spinner. It's like you tune out. That was the reason.
Okay,
I
but
don't
I don't think everybody was doing that. I think like there's certain people like that would be great for, but was it peer pressure why everybody else adopted that thing? Is it like I want to be like them? They've got that. Like I don't know. It's just I remember seeing them at like every gas station, like every checkout, like it was just like right there next to the register. I don't know. It was weird. Like it was this
well
weird
if you're
phenomenon.
like what's funny is if you used it correctly, right? It wasn't that far out because I don't know. It's I think peer pressure's changed in like the last 10 years or so. There's a difference because what is it? Concept. Do the doctors run the asylum or do the inmates run the asylum?
I think that's the inmate. Anyhow, so before we move on to second question, we will read out what
Wow.
Cole
Second question.
we will read out what Cole has sent me. What is peer pressure? Cole answers is I'd say it's being influenced by other people in a group to do things they won't do otherwise. It can involve substance and alcohol use, negative image of yourself, behavior issues, and so on. I agree that's a good definition. Thank you a lot, Cole, for participating, even if you're not there with us right now. So question number two. What are the effects of peer pressure? We basically brushed off about that, but do you have a more concise and more precise response, Gray?
No, I think that really covers it. I just think it would be, adopting a position because of pressure from others. I think that would be like the most concise that I would get on it. But I think almost everything that we've talked about kind of works in there. But I guess it just depends on your own individual definition of it.
Okay, well, that's perfect. I like your very short response. That's perfect. Do you have a response, D Lord?
No, we pretty much covered it with the other stuff in the first. That's kind of like that first little segment area. We pretty much covered it. A lot of that.
Yeah.
I feel it's, even though there is tangents, but part of it I will say there is something. But that's probably save it for later on. I mean, it's personal judgment, but we covered it there, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so the effect is guys said it already. Another effect would be culture. It's now a thing because peer pressure, because people go against others, and that creates that kind of tribe aspect to platform and that kind of stuff. Um, so Cole response is it can decrease how you feel about yourself with your worth, confidence, connection, and other thing, and have it all eventually cave it on you. And I can fully relate to that. It's
Yeah.
very interesting. I like that answer a lot, Cole. So
It's
I
a really, really fun answer. I hadn't kind of thought of it that way, but kind of expanding on that, yeah, like it would help you not really explore what your position is. Instead, it would get you like trained to adopt something else, somebody else's position. I didn't think of that as an effect of it, but wow, I really like where Cole was going with that.
and I'll add more to this. Like that kind of peer pressure effect. I really felt it in the past, but not necessarily me interacting with others. That was like more my approach to media. Like when I was into Red Pillars, when I was into the anti woke crowd, like when I was in the anti, well, I wasn't really part of them officially, but I was following them, and because of that, this impacted my way of approaching media, which is kind of stupid because they approach media like politically, like so much. Like they don't really critique the piece of media anymore. They more critique like the ideas and the politics of it than the media itself. Um, but yeah, I ended up like sounding like someone that I wasn't because I was watching their content a lot, and this is why I decided to step away from red pillars and anti woke crowd, because like I was changing and I didn't like these change. So I totally feel that. Um, so that kind of answered question three for me already. So I will ask question three to Gray. What did you ever felt pressured by people on certain things?
Oh yeah.
Um,
I think every aspect of my life, I've definitely felt pressure. Like you even get that. I guess it depends on your definition of peers, but even like your family, there's always like a pressure to conform to do this just because like we have this tradition, whatever you want to call that. And then you get into friend groups. How many times have you been the lone person who has the, alternate opinion? You always kind of get pressured in one way or another. I think it's something that there is no avoiding. So you definitely have to learn how to deal with that. But I don't know. It just, uh, based on all the other issues that we know about, like tribalism, black and white thinking, everything like that, it's, it's just kind of, it's a lot to deal with. It definitely takes skills to learn how to not give in to that. It's something that we all have to work with. And with social media being constantly in your face and these groups that, bandwagon, so to speak, to jump on, it really does take more effort, I would say, today than in the past. Um, I don't know. It's an interesting, um, I don't know. It's an interesting question. I'd be interested to hear your answers.
and I will add a bit more. I will add another answer at some extent. I did feel pressured by a coworker that I consider a good friend of mine. And it was good this time around. It wasn't like something negative, but he is like for a long time before I met that person, I was thinking about making a diet, losing weight, and that kind of stuff. I'm taking that for a long time because now I've been overweight for like too long at that point. So I've been thinking of it for a long time, but I had no true incentive because I was like, yeah, should I really try? Because like it's hard to work on that, to lose weight and that kind of stuff. And I was at work one day and I met one of other coworker I had. He's still around, but he's working out and he's doing a diet as well, and he lost weight. Um, and that was interesting. And that coworker I consider friend is the one that pushed him to work out and have that diet. And he did the same with me. He told me, "Look, you're a great guy and all, but right, that people look all you look like first before they try to get to know you." And he is damn right. And this is why for a long time I was thinking about losing weight, because that's always something in my mind. Like I want to lose weight for my own health first, and to be better and to feel better and to be more of an example. And there's still that superficial reason that you're more attractive when you're slimmer, and that's true. Like
Some people. Some people, they look weird, man. Uh, I don't know. Al Roker, I think he looked better when he was jolly.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, so that coworker I consider a friend, he told me, um yeah, that's like, you do you, but look, what's going on to your other coworker that is doing that diet. He's looking better, he's feeling better, and he's happier, and he's damn right. So I was like, you know what? You're my incentive. So that coworker I consider a friend is like the incentive I really got to lose weight, even if that was in my mind for a long time. It's been on my mind for at least 3 years, because it's been 3 years I gained weight because of many reasons. Uh, so yeah, let's lose that weight. I'm stalling right
Well,
now.
I
I
got a
haven't.
question for you then. So was the peer pressure this person saying like you should do this, or is the peer pressure the fact that like you saw him, doing this and then you wanted to emulate it? I'm just kind of wondering like which part of it you're seeing is like the peer pressure.
Maybe him saying you should do it, and seeing someone else on our kind of circle at work doing it. These two
Hmm.
combined would be peer pressure at some extent. But here again, that's good peer pressure there. It's not something I say, oh, he insulted me or anything. No, he did that to help me out. And
Hmm.
yeah, like sometimes peer pressure can be positive. It's not always negative, but most of the time we associate it as being negative because sometimes it is negative, because sometimes it's bad influence telling you to do bad stuff that you shouldn't do. In my case, I'm lucky because the person had good intention, you know. Anyhow,
Yeah.
um,
Well, I mean, like there are somewhat positive things that you could be peer pressured into, but I don't know. Does it make it positive because it's the right outcome? Like if it's something that you didn't want to do and you're adopting this position because others have like, I don't know, made you, or you feel like it would somehow go over better with others if you did adopt this position. I don't know. It just it's interesting. I don't know. It just kind of makes me wonder because obviously getting healthier, changing for the positive, that's a great thing. And not everyone has the motivation, but I don't know. It just kind of makes me wonder. But I don't know if I would have considered this peer pressure. I would have considered it more like encouragement or somebody's giving you part of their experience. But I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it differently.
yeah, maybe. And I like your approach. That's a really interesting approach. And well, I just sneeze. Okay, so um, yeah, I see where you're coming from, and as I said, even before I talked with that coworker I consider a good friend, even before that, I was thinking of losing weight because that's something in my mind for the last 3 years. But it was really like the incentive. It was like he tried to help out. He suggested something uh, that could help, and yeah. So, Lord, did you ever felt pressured by people, Lord?
Uh, I am here, yes. It's not really. People try to influence me, but I don't change unless
Well, you're a lone wolf.
you must understand, unless it's I'm not quite the crowd follower.
I feel
You,
you.
it's you gotta understand, like I respect certain stuff, but I started keeping a more diverse friend group, so there wasn't all groupthink. We would probably agree on most stuff, but it's always nice to have that 20%. But a lot of people I don't do is go with the crowd kind of thing. So it's certain stuff, but thinking, not really. Some interest, yes, but come play this, come do this, play New World. I'm like, but you guys are going to abandon me. And that's what happened. I'm not moving from one server to another. So I'm just like, nope. I did that once, and I'm just like, maybe peer pressure on that. Certain games to play because, yeah, come play, or else you're going to be playing lonely.
I feel you. I feel you. Like a lot of people were telling me, buy this new game, otherwise you will play alone.
I'm like, you gotta. I go. guys, you're gonna be making me. I'm gonna be playing this alone in like
Exactly.
fucking. I'm like, sorry, language, but yeah, like I like New World, but I know want to play Lost Ark. Then they stop playing or move to another server. Oh, I can't migrate my character. Thank you. That's thousands of hours. That's hours down the drain. No, so that's like where I stopped. I'm like, I'm not doing this. So if it's a certain side of groupthink or gaming, I'm like, I'm going to be here. You're welcome to join me if you guys want, but I'm not that whole thing. I do my own side.
So, Cole answer to that is, um, all the time he felt in the past, even a bit today, would be in a toxic classroom with bullies, toxic online group full of immature people, toxic friend group in real life, etc., who would pressure me to do things just because they do, or else they would look down at me, which is something you should never give into because they don't care about you or your well being and will eventually stab you in the back anyway when shit hits the fan. Toxic and abusive family will also do that and try their best to drag your life down and hold you back from reaching your potential. Thank you a lot, Cole, for your response there. Um,
Yeah, insightful as always. That dude is awesome.
Hey,
yeah,
Gray, we have a request. Someone
I
wants to
saw it.
be.
I'm gonna ignore it. Anonymity.
what's going on?
He is a jar of mustard, Miss Sparkles. You must understand.
What's going on?
Sorry. Someone
There
wanted
was
to
a
see
request to
Gray.
basically
Oh
turn on
yeah,
the camera.
what's going? Oh
Eh,
yeah, Sparkle, Miss Sparkle.
Tomorrow, Thinkers will be back on camera.
Thinkers will be back on camera. Just think of him. He is a jar of mustard. So I don't have a camera, baby.
So Cole is amazing. Even not there, he
Yes.
contributes the best he can. So the fourth and final question: the good and the bad of peer pressure. This is funny because we covered in length some of it without really being concise, but let's give a short answer or a long answer depending what you guys would like to add. Starting with Gray, the good and the bad.
Yeah, I've definitely been swayed in my opinion. And I don't think it was just, I'm adopting the opinion of a mob. It was, I don't like this particular kind of movie, or I wouldn't like this type of thing, or I wouldn't like this type of food. Almost anything. And I've definitely learned that I'm wrong. I used to be super opinionated and super closed off to other opinions, and I have to think that some of me opening up was due to peer pressure. I don't think it's necessarily always a bad thing, but it's a skill that you need to learn. Like if you've never had to stand up to a mob of people or stand up to a crowd, it would be horrible if you couldn't do it when you needed to. It is something that you need to learn to do. Like 100%, it's much easier to just give in to the will of the mob, so to speak. But yeah, I think instead of just doing that, learn to consider their opinion and to I really like the way that we kind of do the other podcast. Oftentimes, with a lot of the Kubrick films, you weren't as big a fan as me and Cole were, but we're just encouraging you to you know, take another look at it. That that's the first viewing, and there's so many more layers and so much more that you could get out of like a second viewing. But I wouldn't say that we're peer pressuring you, like telling you like we're gonna drop you out of the group or you'll be kicked out, or oh my god, I can't believe you would have such a stupid opinion. Like we're not attacking your opinion. It's like, okay, I can see what you're saying. I think you might be missing a couple things. I think there are ways that it could be a good thing depending on how we're defining it. But yeah, with kind of how we were defining it before, there's definitely positive that could come out of it, if it's basically any encouragement, like for instance, you mentioned the health thing, like that's awesome. That definitely helps. I would just fear that that's saying like any suggestion would then be peer pressure. I think there's a different in those kind of things, like whether somebody is just making a suggestion for you that could be positive, or whether like a group of people is essentially pressuring you. But that being said, I think there can be positive and there can be real negative peer pressure. I think I've changed for the better due to some of it, but yeah, I don't know. The social media, I think it is making us all worse for the amount of peer pressure that it's doing. People will just constantly be getting dunked on for having the wrong opinion. I really don't like that. I think that type of behavior is definitely wrong. But if you had a group of people who are getting healthier and they're encouraging you to be healthier, like, oh yeah, that sounds like a really positive way to kind of pressure somebody to be a part of this positive change. The problem is, I'm sure everyone thinks that they're doing that. You know.
And you're right about our other podcasts. Like, we are having discussions, and I feel like this podcast here as well, we are having discussion, and this is why I like having discussion. I specify discussion because it feels like when people have different opinion, it turns into debate fast on YouTube, especially with like the tribes on the left or the right. Like, it's always debate for them. There's always something like, oh, I need to assert dominance over you. And that's why, like, when we will talk about the culture war, it won't be a debate. And I specify it, and I will specify it over and over again. um I don't think debates are that great. Keep in mind that debate were born like in politics, when they wanted to have voter moving toward one or the other when they were not certain. That's the idea of debate at first, and now debate has turned into something that's not necessarily trending, but that's the thing on YouTube.
No debate me, bro culture. Come on.
I truly hate this culture. It's so bad. It turns everything into two tribes. Oh, I'm right, you're wrong, and I need to prove you. Like, there's no place of like having other opinion. There's only you, and this is what I truly hate.
Well,
And
see, to be fair, right? I will say on that, Destiny built it, Destiny destroyed it.
and
Destiny Vosh made that debate me bro format, but they also took it out and shot it out back.
and that's interesting because like a lot of debates, they're not there like to maybe change their views. Like, someone goes into a debate and their point is not to understand the other side. That's the other thing. Their point is to crush you. They want to have the
Well,
last word.
yeah, that would be the difference between like a conversation and a debate. Like, right? Like a debate implies that somebody could win or something like that. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't imply understanding.
That's why I say discussion is more interesting for me and entertaining as well. And sometimes I'm guilty of that. Sometimes I did watch a few debate here and there, but I I'd say it's not as interesting as a discussion.
Oh, I love it. I don't like participating in it nearly as much, but yeah, great entertainment.
See, you're gonna have that whole thing of bring it's like listening to Gray and Patrick discuss about what how his love is. One thinks She-Hulk is good, the other one thinks Velma is good. Then the other one thinks the other
One
one's
is a
bad.
masterpiece. The other one, is She-Hulk. Yeah,
You
I
like
don't know. And
Velma, you like Velma and hate
hey, what
She-Hulk.
can I say? It is so
Patrick
much better than Scrappy Doo.
Patrick's like She-Hulk and hates Velma. Come on.
He hasn't experienced Velma yet. I'm going to show him why it's not a horrible show. But
Wow.
no, but I mean, like, there are positive things. Like, I think we'd all have to agree. Like, peer pressure would be like you're in a stadium, everyone's doing like the wave or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's not something that you'd normally do,
Yeah.
right? But that feels positive. Like, you're kind of pressured into it by the crowd around you. They're all doing it. You're all being part of something. I don't know, that feels positive, but how many steps is that removed from being like a mob? Like, okay, you don't necessarily want to do this, but everybody around you is doing it. Like, I don't know. Like, it is positive, but I don't see it as being like a pure positive thing. I don't know. It's one step closer to joining. Yeah, we could all strive to be like Miss Sparkles and never join the wave. We must be more like Sparkles.
She is funny.
By the way, Gray, see, Gray was always encouraged to take part as one of the Juggalos.
Whoop whoop.
So yeah, okay. So Cole answer the good and the bad of peer pressure. Positive peer pressure can help younger people mature and understand things they need to improve on to do well in adulthood, while avoiding dangerous acts that can lead them down a bad path and encourage them to do positive things. Negative peer pressure is something far more present that where people try to disguise it as being helpful and positive peer pressure, but it's just harassment and make things worse, aka like the left and the right like poking each other with big spikes, especially if that's me adding something, not him. Especially if you're doing it to a stranger instead of a friend. Exactly, Cole. His name right. It can also make people become isolated from society where they don't just ignore bullies and people peer pressure them, but people in general with how much they hated their interaction, which decreases their social skill in adulthood and make things tougher. I agree 100% with everything Cole has said. With so many example in my mind. Any thought on that, Gray or D Lord?
No, that's fine.
Again, just yeah, that Cole is awesome. Seems like a really thought out answer. I really dig it.
Yeah. So I 100% agree. So would you like to add more to the good and the bad of peer pressure, D Lord?
I think it can be used both positive and negative. Because for the most part, if you look at it as it takes a village to raise a child concept,
In sociology, that's the same thing exactly.
basically, that's what I said. Does the doctors run the asylum or do the inmates run the asylum now?
The inmates rule the asylum,
Because
I'd
let's see,
say.
what is the outside, right? Because if the village becomes full, if the village idiots become the majority, that's who starts raising the village. If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, it does.
Hmm.
Um, I think everything has been told. I gave example on what could be good in my case, where I got incentive into doing something I was thinking of in the past, and the bad is basically what the red pill content did to me and what the woke crowd content did to me. Um, so yeah, if you see some harmful idea, just stay away from that. That's how I see it. It doesn't help. You will just dig deeper into your own hole you made. Um, so yeah, okay. I will ask you, Gray. Are you able to find the playlist in the Discord chat?
Yeah, if you vamp for a minute,
Yeah.
sure.
So look into the playlist and pick and choose any video we haven't covered yet. Um, it's your turn to choose something, or except if I'm wondering if you have a video of your own before or you don't.
I do not. I did not come prepared, but yeah, looking for the playlist
The
now.
dog ate his homework.
Yeah, the dog ate my homework. That darn dog.
That's fine.
Um,
That's fine. As I said, just your
yeah.
presence is priceless. That's why I
Aw.
collected so many videos just in case, so we never like them.
I mean,
Multi-topic stream. Perhaps it's new.
Maybe
I'm struggling for this. Talk amongst yourselves. I will find it.
okay. It's look into co-host of with the chat with
That was
only
the
us.
only one I hadn't looked at. It makes sense why it would be there.
Now.
So like, yeah. D-Lord, what do you want to add? Yeah.
No, I was gonna make a meme response.
Meme response. Have it.
I was just gonna say no. I was just gonna ask a very interesting thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Is if you're familiar with Chainsaw Man?
I've heard of it. I know it's a manga anime, but I haven't read it or seen it.
Unfortunately, the question I'd ask is something wouldn't happen to be the idea. Is Asa a femcel?
Oh, really? There's a film of it?
Femcel.
Femcel? What's femcel?
What's an incel?
Oh, okay, so that's a female, but oh, I see. Okay.
Nope. If you've never seen Chainsaw Man, you wouldn't. No. Sorry. No. I don't know. I think peer pressure it changes with the time, right? I think part of it is, my personal theory is, what happened is people started, all humans function upon an algorithm.
Yeah.
Regardless of, let's say, I've always said indoctrination works two ways as well. Yeah. And then the people in charge promote that agenda.
Fact.
Does that make sense?
It does.
So, eventually, right? Like, let's look at like in TV for the last decade. It became trendy and peer pressury in the industry post the writer's strike, last writer's strike, before this one, to start doing SJW stories. You were exiled from the industry if you didn't, if that makes sense.
Okay, so that's the one you faced. Interesting.
I was looking down towards the bottom. There were like 3 of them down there, so I didn't realize it was going to automatically put it way up there.
Maybe
the one and only Miss Sparkles has joined us, so maybe we should.
And it's called patients, not prisoners. Or what did you guys say? You didn't use the right word for an asylum. An asylum is a mental institution, and that's prisoners. Just want that's not prisoners. I mean, that's the patients. You guys are like, you said prison. Just I'm correcting D-Lord. It's prisoners. They're not prisoners.
I said you can call the inmates.
What? Say it again. Oh, and why does your camera always like start going down? It starts to go up to up your nose. Why is that, Mister? I'm just gonna call you MTT.
My computer is really shit. I cannot move my screen, and I need to have a weird angle, otherwise it will overheat and crash. My computer is really bad. I was meant to change it last year, but a lot of things happened. This year was rough on money. I could not afford that computer anymore, but next year hopefully I will get my new computer. So welcome.
I'm in the same boat, so I'm trying to get a computer too. It's not so I don't have a computer and use a tablet, so
welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining.
I sent Gray a video. He could show you guys. It's an amazing video. I sent him just recently a video.
Perfect.
Just like 5 seconds ago. It's a really good video.
I'm curious to see that eventually. So,
now what did you say? What did you say? Okay, you said not. I can call you. Oh, Matt. Is that what you said?
MTT.
Mr. No, not you. That's what I'm calling you. But Dragon Man is what I usually call him to everybody when I'm talking about him. Hey, D-Lord. What do I call you? Is off with language?
D-Lord or Tiamat? That's what I usually go by.
Oh, because I would call you Dragon Man. You're Dragon Man.
Most people just call me Dragon on Discord. Discord is
when I'm talking about you to Mr. Martin down there, I call you Dragon Man.
Well, I have my own terms for Vincent and other people.
So, because you just joined, I will ask you the 4 question. Question number 1: What is peer pressure for you?
Well, what I always picture it as is like someone trying to get someone to do something that I don't want to do, like a group of people trying to get one person to do it. Usually teenagers trying to get one teenager to do something they don't want to do, and it's usually like something unhealthy or bad.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Anything else you'd like to add to that response?
Well, what do you want me? What are you asking? I don't know exactly what the question.
Because that's the
You
4
just said-
question we ask to people. So, like, if
What's
you
peer pressure?
feel like,
Let her
Yeah,
answer
sorry.
the other ones. Let her answer the other ones.
okay, so number 2: What are the effects of peer pressure? You kind of responded to it, but would you like to expand on that?
It can the effect. It depends on what the situation is. Like I shoplifted one time only because of peer pressure, and I got caught. So I don't know. Usually, if it's like for something bad, it never turns out. It can.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can affect your whole life. Like I knew somebody who was peer pressured into doing ecstasy, and they died. So
Yeah.
peer pressure, I don't think is a good thing. I really don't. Well, I guess if you're peer pressuring someone to go go to college or like something that's good for you, then it can affect your life for the good. But when I think peer pressure, I think negative though. So
this is a really good point. Number 3. Well, you already kind of answered number 3, but I will still ask it if you want to bring another example or expand on it. Did you ever felt pressured by people on certain circles, internet or real life or family or friends?
yeah, many times.
Okay.
I get called a femcell. That's the other thing I wanted to say. I get called a femcell. So yes.
And you have kids, and you're called a
I have
femcell.
kids,
Okay.
and I'm a femcell. Yeah. I buy the left and the right. It's just because I don't sleep around. I haven't done anything in 6 years, but it's like because of that, I'm a femcell. So I get told that I should be a woman and my own woman and sleep around because why? It's fun. And then I get told don't sleep around because you don't want to increase your body count because that'll make you a whore and no man will marry you. So I don't
It
know.
will make you empowered. You could be more
That's
empowered.
what you told. See, great. No, I don't think so. I just don't want to. That's all it is. I just don't.
I like your response, and this is why I think both sides are stupid, because sleeping around is as stupid as like saying don't do it. Like you need balance in life, and I like your approach to that. So number 4: the good and the bad of peer pressure.
Good and bad depends on the situation.
Okay.
It's situational. So I don't know. Like it's like drugs. You get pressured to do drugs, you could die. Yeah, you could become an addict. I mean, but if you get pressured into doing something good, like I wish somebody would have peer pressured me into. I could have got a job at Microsoft after I graduated high school, and I wish somebody would have peer pressured me to go take the test to have the job. So then I would be probably not broke a hoe right now. So that's all I could think of.
That's really good. So thank you for answering these 4 questions. So now it's my personal favorite part of every stream, the reaction to video, and that's the video. So just by the title, this will be funny. I can't remember if I have seen that one or not, so we will see. And since you're in control,
Okay.
have you seen the Marvels, Miss Sparkle? Since we
I don't want to. I used to collect Miss Marvel comic books like before all this crap, and I really liked Miss Marvel, and they ruined her. So no, they can suck it. I'm not even going to watch it at all. None of it, because Miss Marvel was nothing like with their show. And I've comic books from when I was 17, I think, and her story is actually really dark. She has a horrible story.
Yeah,
it's really
like
bad.
the whole
And
the part that ties her into like the X-Men is like just I don't know. It's crazy that like I don't know. I wish we would have gotten that rogue that has like the stolen powers, but it is
Yeah.
interesting. So that being said, I don't know if you saw the initial movie, the Captain Marvel one. What was that, like 6 years ago or something like that?
Yeah,
I just saw
that
tons of
was
reviews
5 years.
on it. I watched the reviews. I'm not going to watch it at all. I don't even like Brie Larson. She should feel lucky that she's 32 and was even able to get any more. People, women and men are different in the sense that women have an expiration date when it comes to being famous and stuff like that. And she got lucky. She got even part her attitude about it is
Sad.
really sad and pathetic. So I was like,
Yeah.
so she should feel blessed with that face to still be
Well, I mean, basically
to
anybody in
able
Hollywood
to.
should feel blessed. They are. But I
But it's a lot of
deeply
nepotism in
dislike that
Hollywood.
first film. It could be
What?
because they
Oh,
made
Marvel?
me
Miss
feel
Marvel?
like lied to.
Uh,
Yeah, I really hated Captain Marvel. But this one, I'm not saying it's a good film. There are
I'm
plot holes all over
Captain
it.
Marvel first.
But
Forgot about Captain
I don't
Marvel
know.
too.
I
So
enjoyed it more than the other one. I'm just saying, like, it would be like a tier above the other one for me. But this is not a good film. But we were talking about peer pressure, and it's saying like Marvel's gets worse. Director attacks toxic fans. Um, I don't know. There might be a certain amount of people just jumping on the bandwagon to like attack this director. I don't know. I could be wrong. We might want to
I
get
don't think
into
she
it, but
should
it
have
seems
been
like she's
directing
getting a
movies.
lot of slack.
yeah.
I don't think she should be directing movies. Especially she doesn't have a very good She doesn't have a very large directing career. And she wrote
The
fan
first one
fiction.
was decent.
Back in the day, used
I'm
to
not the
Captain
biggest
Frickin' do a
fan of
lot.
Candyman, but
I love the
yeah,
original Candyman. I loved it, but not the new
same.
one. I ain't gonna watch
The
that shit.
Clive Barker one was great, but so I don't know. She did a cut of this that was over 2 hours though, and then Marvel said you've got to cut it down. So then she cut it down to like an hour and 40 something, and they made her do one more cut. And then she made it pretty clear that like this is not my film anymore. This is
Oh
Marvel's.
no.
So I do
So
think that
her
she
original.
gets some slack from it.
Oh, I was gonna say, did you not hear that? Apparently, they wanted to have the scene between Valkyrie and Miss Marvel.
So that's been reported. I haven't seen
That they
like
were dating.
I don't
Wait,
deny
what?
it that so there is an implication, there's a report, a leak that perhaps there is a scene taken out of the Marvels due to the episode The
Well, they had
Panderverse
to
of
cut
South
it
Park,
down as well.
that they said like, the Cartman's thing was put a chick in it, make her lame and gay. Supposedly they made it explicit that Valkyrie and Captain Marvel were dating. There is a scene in there where they seem very friendly. She can call Valkyrie down, and she apparently says a line. So the report is that the line that was cut was, "We work better as friends." So that made it pretty explicit that they were more than friends, and this would confirm that Captain Marvel is gay. I don't know. I haven't seen that confirmed that it's out there, but I do know that her actual vision for this film is not what we're seeing. So it does suck that she's getting a lot of flack for what we're seeing when it sounds like there was a lot of studio interference.
I like this, and I'd say it's like that for every MCU movie since probably like Phase 3. What do you want to say, Miss Sparkle? Sparkle. Sorry, I massacred your name.
Just keep.
You're cutting up. You're cutting off.
Oh no, we lost her.
No, but I will say though,
there we
And
go.
it is.
So
Okay.
now yes, it's better. Now we can hear you.
Okay. I said Captain Marvel's a man. It's Miss Marvel. I don't understand why they have to change. Every time I hear Captain Marvel, I think of the man. Captain Marvel's the man. I don't like it.
You're thinking of.
Like I know a lot about Marvel on comics, and like this, I just don't like. I don't like that they call it Captain Marvel.
Marvel is the original who died of cancer. He actually that leads to the. Well, actually, Surprise a very interesting comic. the Cancer Verse, as it was called. The idea, and then Captain Miss Marvel replaced, or Carol Danvers replaced that
Mhm.
one, and
Oh,
then pretty much the same. She looked the same way all the way up until 2010ish. She was sidelined a little bit in the 90s because Rogue apparently took her powers away. Then again,
I
they
didn't read
went.
that.
Now, the only problem I find with the current Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel,
Mhm.
as it goes, is they make her look like Carl. See, Miss Sparkles, you might be familiar with this because me and Gray are going to be doing a comics thing. She does, she looks like Carl Manverse.
Okay.
They call
That's
it.
not
Okay, so there was a book done. Is they designed
Mhm.
Captain Marvel to look like she has issues with her father, a bunch of other stuff, and she got called Carl Manvers with the whole little like butch, maybe dykish look. And
Okay.
she
I
had
don't like
she
that
had
look at all. But,
she had so if you ever see this version of her, it's a book that wasn't very well received. They entirely were like, she had daddy issues, daddy was an alcoholic, etc., etc. Yeah, I'll find the image and put it in there. But that's what they largely based this
okay.
Captain Marvel on. And you can blame so much on like why the Marvels failed. It's hit every low mark ever.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah, well, I like the blonde one, with the scarf. Well, not scarf, but like belt that's red on her and blue and like a white lightning bolt kind of thing on her chest. That's the one that I like. I forgot what her name is. I haven't read it in forever. They're in my closet, but that's the one I like. I like that outfit and everything. So I like that. But the only thing, the storyline with her is that her own son would go back in time and make him have intercourse with her and she'd be pregnant with him, so he'd be born. That's the comic books I have. That's the comics I have. Was where she was fighting her son. She has to kill her son at the end of the series.
So I will ask you something because you seem to know comics very well and stuff.
Mhm.
I'm wondering, can you expand, like, can you list all of the reason why you were not interested by the Marvel? I'm really curious to like hear every single reason, because you mentioned you're not a fan of Brie
That's kind of
Larson.
putting her on the spot. Like, list every single reason for your opinion. If
I'm
you wouldn't mind,
if you
if
don't
some come
mind.
to mind.
Good addition, Gray. Sorry if that appeared that aggressive.
Like,
I'm just
whoa.
wondering. I'm just wondering. Thank you, Gray, for the addition. You're amazing, Gray.
I
So,
need gray.
would you mind adding reasons why the Marvels doesn't seem like something that could catch your interest?
Well, I was bored with comic book movies by the time it came out, anyways. First off, and second off, I don't like Brie Larson, and third, the outfit's ugly. And I'm a girly girl. I like. Hey, my picture went away. Okay, I'm a girly girl, and I like. Okay, like on my wall, I have a big poster of Catwoman, and I like the big-breasted, beautiful superhero women, and I don't like any of the ones that are out now. I just don't. I'm not into the men and women aren't the same, and I don't understand why. Why would they want to take my power away from me? I can use my chest to get what I want all the time. Why would you
You can use
want to
it
take
for
that
good.
away? Yeah, and why would you want to take that away? And I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't watch. Okay, so when I first came on Twitter and everything, I got like a lot of hate for this. But I'm never gonna stop saying this. I don't watch TV to look at ugly people. If I want to look at ugly people, I'll go outside, and look at people. I think that you deserve to be on my TV. That's just my opinion. Like, you should work out. You should look nice. They should earn being there. but they're not. A lot of them are related to somebody or whatever. However, they got there. A lot of them don't even have to work to get there. They're just, like I said, related to somebody. But you shouldn't. You should be on my TV and look pretty. That's just my opinion. Even the men. So
I like that. I really enjoy your take a lot, and
well, thank you.
I asked because this movie bombed, and apparently it's just because of the toxic fans. Apparently, and I don't think you're a toxic fan because you seem like someone that consume a lot of that. And the way I see it, if you consume a lot of some product, you can't be that toxic, and like someone that's
I'm
toxic
toxic
would
with
like.
glitter. I have too much glitter everywhere. So let's say that. I have an issue of an addiction. So okay, so well, let's watch Gray's thing. What are we doing?
So now we will react to this video, and if any of us would like to pause and add something, we just ask Gray because he's the one controlling the video right now. So let's do this. Nobody can be shy. So if you want to add something, just let Gray know, and we will pause.
Okay, and I don't have it fully maxed out in volume, so let me know if I need to raise this. But I
Maybe max
have it
it
shared
out.
volume, so we should be able to hear it. Max it out?
Yeah.
All right. Good. Okay.
Perfect.
You
We
guys
I'm
are
assuming you
amazing.
can hear that
we
now.
don't hear anything.
Okay, good times. That is one of the reasons why I wanted to test out sharing before I just shared it. But yeah, let's go ahead
I
and
want
try
to
this
say
one more
you
time.
have to
You got the
download it.
crazy eyes.
You're
You
gonna
got
have
the
to
crazy
probably
eyes.
download it and then upload it, probably.
Pictures
No,
now.
that's not true.
Um.
Share screen. Share entire screen. Shares entire desktop.
Oh, that could be interesting.
Chrome tabs lets you share any tab. Share screen. So Chrome tab. So I want the tab then, right?
Oh, what happened to Sparkle?
Chrome tab. Marvels.
There's
That one.
Sparkle.
Okay, I should have it now. If this
being
you
blamed.
should be able to hear it now.
Yeah, we air it. Okay, so
Cool.
move it back to 0.
Sorry, I did the exact wrong thing to share it last time, but we should be good now. So yeah, tell me if you want it stopped, and hopefully Sparkles will come back. But I don't think she'll miss much in the intro to this. So
well, guys, it was only a matter of time before fans started being blamed for the Marvels flopping at the box office.
Okay, so pause.
What's coming?
Because it could.
Go back to the title of the article. The title he showed the title of an article. Just the title. I want to.
Yeah,
really...
it's not great scrubbing. I don't know, man.
Okay, so
it was only a matter of time.
Yeah,
pause,
I'm sure.
Pause,
there we
pause,
go.
Pause. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I tried, and apparently it's lagging. But yeah, what were you saying about the title?
Okay.
So what went wrong as the Marvels opened disastrously in cinemas?
So, okay, I got one answer. And if you have one, you can then say it after mine. So my answer is the target audience they wanted didn't show up. And I say it by experience. I've seen 4 girls out of 20 people, not even 20, 12 people in my theater, and I think that was a trend. And we even spoke to Miss Sparkle, which said herself many of the reasons why she didn't come. So I think the target audience they wanted and aimed for wasn't interested. That's my first reason. Do you have one you'd like to share, Gray?
Yeah, that's not a bad one. And like you mentioned, the ratio in yours, Cole's, and my theater, and I asked a couple people after that too, wasn't what they had anticipated. It is a comic book movie, and still the vast majority of the viewers are going to be male. It would be nice if they could somehow integrate females into this, but I don't know. I don't think you have to do it at the expense of men, and that's kind of how that first movie felt. It seemed like they were kind of pushing that really hard. That being said, seeing this movie, it doesn't feel like they're pushing that nearly as hard. There's no real like supermen that do anything in this, but it doesn't feel like it's that anti-man thing that I kind of got from that first movie. But this is the follow-up to that first movie, which was again kind of sold as you need to see this to understand Endgame. And I think a lot of people felt ripped off, and then it ended up not being a good movie. So why would they really want to see a sequel to something that they felt duped on the first time? Uh, I don't know. I'm not sure that it's the wrong audience. It's definitely not the audience that they wanted, but there's a certain amount that are, going to be Marvel stans no matter what. They're going to this. I don't know why you'd have to alienate them. And this one seemed to do a little bit better of a job. It didn't seem to do that as much as the first one. That being said, it's not a great movie. It felt like they were trying to get rid of this thing. So I don't know. I think they knew what was coming. And if those reports are correct that they removed certain scenes because of what they considered to be backlash that will come back at them, I don't know. It feels like that just lends more credence to the whole they're trying to kind of hide this and get away with it and just move on to the next thing really quick. I don't know. It just seems like a disaster all around. I don't know that it's the audience's fault. It feels like it really is the studio, but I'm biased.
No, you're not. I think you hit really good marks there. I agree 100%. And I will add a bit more before I pass the mic to D Lord. I will ask a question. I have my own answer, and I will wait for both of your answer. I will ask you, do you think peer pressure in a way like the YouTuber you listen to didn't like it could influence that? Do you think that YouTube as a platform didn't help the movie? Do you think it
I
has
think it
anything?
added to it.
I
100%. Sorry for not letting you finish that. I'm a jerk. But yes, I just yes, I wanted to. So that was one of the reasons why I decided on this one. I thought that peer pressure would come up at some point, and if they're kind of blaming the audience, there is a certain amount of that, and I don't know that it necessarily is the audience, but I think a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon on this. I think you could definitely relate that to peer pressure. I think people are knocking it more than this particular film deserves.
yeah.
It really was more entertaining to me than the first one. That being said, I would never recommend it. I have no desire to watch it again. Nothing like that. Like, I don't see a redeeming value, but I enjoyed this way more than the first one. So I don't know. I do feel like a lot of people are being a little bit meaner than they have to be. They're jumping on that bandwagon. I think that could be peer pressure for sure.
Yeah. So basically what's going on right now, we are asking what went wrong as the Marvel opened This Is Truthfully in cinemas. My answer was I think the target audience they were aiming for didn't show. And Greg, could you repeat as a more concise or shorter response, your response to that question?
Yeah, basically just I think a lot of people could be jumping on bandwagons. Personally, when I saw this movie, I enjoyed it way more than Captain Marvel, the first one from a few years ago. It seems like people are attacking this. They're kind of jumping on a bandwagon. That being said, it's not a good flick. So I don't know. I think it's just getting a little bit more hate than it deserves. And if they're throwing that at the director, I feel like that might be a little bit unfair when it looks like it's really the studio meddling that made this how bad it is. But I might be biased on this.
Yeah. D Lord, what would be your answer? What went wrong as the Marvel opened disastrously in cinemas?
All right. Well, okay. If you go off the original allegations years ago, that there were two cuts of Avengers Endgame. One had more Captain Marvel, and one had less. Now, she had just gotten paid the most of any female in an acting role in almost years. She was expecting the same pay as people who what is it, Don Cheeto, who played the
War
other
Machine.
War Machine, and others were like, "Yeah, you gotta pay me like for this role alone, like $5 million." And she had never and this is the first time Captain Marvel was going to be featured, and it wasn't the fact that fans really didn't like her, because if you see maybe Multi could bring it up if it doesn't kill his computer, is that's what the original Captain Marvel looked like. Now, this is around the time of they found, of course, if you look at Carl Manvers, which is what the comic fans affectionately call the redesign of Captain Marvel, where she looks similar to the film with a slide haircut shave. I wish I could upload images here. It becomes very awkward. Like, that she wasn't a braced character. Like, I was in a theater when in Endgame, people unironically laughed when she got punched off screen by Thanos. Now, call that strange, right?
No, it wasn't. I was also one of them. I cheered up. I was like,
I
yeah.
was like, she wasn't. It's kind of like people cheered when Galadriel took the volcano. Maybe she's dead.
Facts.
But she somehow survived.
So, Miss Sparkle.
My
Except if
thing
you were
updated.
not.
That's what happened. That's why it kicked it. It kicked me off. It updated, and now it's like being stupid. So, but yeah, that's what happened.
So, why do you think? What went wrong as the Marvel opened disastrously in cinemas?
Oh, before she passed her, I just want to say something. Like, there was a theory that Disney bought out to say it made $1 billion. I want to say that because there's a rumor about this, that they helped buy tickets, but
I
theaters
think
were
they
empty.
did.
Theaters were empty.
I
Now,
think they did.
if you look at sales of this film, domestically, it only had $47 million, but it only grossed $110 million international. So you're not hitting China's market, you're not hitting the other market. So,
No market were into the movie at all.
but
So yeah, Miss Sparkle, what went wrong as the Marvel opened disastrously in cinemas?
No one really goes to the movies anymore. For one, nobody really
Very-
goes because it costs so dang much. So I think that could be part of it. And also, it's nobody wants to watch three female leads pretend they're men. So I think that's part of it. I don't know. I just think the
I
movie
laugh
looked
because
dumb.
I agree. Just saying, I laugh because I agree. I think you pinpoint really genuine things. I like your response so much. Do you want to expand on that?
Nah, I knew it was gonna fail. That's all. It looked like it was gonna fail. It was obvious. So, yeah.
And I will add another reason, and we brushed off about it in the stream, so I won't go too much in detail. But I was entertained by the movie. I thought it was entertaining, but it was a bad movie. Everyone on the panel gave a low score for valid reasons. Um, and
You guys
the
weren't
only
paid to go to this movie. You went. That's what I was gonna ask Greg. Greg, you paid to go to see this movie? Why?
I did.
You
So the
did,
first
and did
reason,
Greg?
the first
You
reason
bought.
I like to support cinemas, and the second reason is um I when I can support the cinemas I do, and I really wanted to cover the Marvels for my podcast. If we were not doing a podcast, I don't think I would have watched the movie. I had no interest. I had no personal interest toward it. Like even Miss Marvel, I liked her show. Well, no, not her show. I liked her in her show. Her show was trash. I didn't like the show, but she was entertaining enough for me to say, "Oh, I'm invested in that character. I care for that character." But her show was bad. Um, Now, when it came to the movie, I was like, I will go see that movie only for her. And then things were coming up, and I was like, oh, finally, I won't even see the movie for her. I will see the movie for my own podcast and to try to have a more nuanced opinion than the two very politically driven sides of YouTube. Because based on what I've seen, the left really liked it, but is it genuine like, or they only liked it because they know that the right hated it? Even then, they had issues with the movies, but are they really honest when they say they liked it?
I didn't even know
Hmm.
anybody liked it.
Um, maybe they
Does
really truly, maybe maybe they really truly liked it. As I said, I was entertained.
I didn't even
Uh,
know anybody liked it. Who liked it? There's reviews of people liking it. Like, did
uh,
people like it?
and yeah, the SGWs on YouTube, like I will
Mm.
name a few. Organized Chaos liked it.
No, don't
Okay,
confuse SJWs with consumers.
okay, okay, okay. So I
Consumers are different than SJWs.
okay. So I
Yeah,
also
he's telling you. He's laying down the law. There's a difference. There is a difference.
uh
But just saying.
another YouTuber I follow, Eric's Reloaded, also liked it. Him, I do think he genuinely liked it because he
Consumer?
yeah, he likes
People.
Marvel in general. So I think he genuinely like
No,
it.
he likes. Okay, the reason why I differentiate, mainly the consumers liked it, but certain
Pizza.
people liked it. Like Eric and Dane said he liked it. It's like Dane's opinion is he says he loves uh the last Star Wars film.
Just because the
Everyone
right
hates
hates
it.
it.
Basically.
That
Like,
goes back to what I said. Like the left, I don't know how much genuine they are, but the same can be told for the right.
You
It's
know,
obvious that the right they will hate stuff for the wrong reasons.
I played
Um,
Borderlands 1.
but
Mr. Martin said that. He said it was almost like a ripoff of Borderlands 3. The game, right? I played the first one. I don't know what number 3 was about.
yeah,
So, Miss Marvel, is that what he's talking about? So you didn't like? You said it was entertaining. How can you say you didn't like it, but it's entertaining? How
that's
was
a
it
bad
entertaining?
movie. I had a lots of issues. It was entertaining because I wasn't bored. I wasn't watching the clock. Time has passed, but
Like the Miss Marvel is kind of like your conduit into it. She's like fangirling the whole time. Like her hero is Captain Marvel. So I don't know. You can kind of go into the world with her as the conduit.
So that's
It's
the whole
not.
world, Miss Marvel. Now that's right. Okay,
Yeah.
see, I was.
So it
Yeah,
is. It is not good, but the way that they do cut it, it is like beat, then beat, then beat. You forget about like what happened 2 seconds earlier. They,
yeah.
do like a hopscotch scene to Intergalactic from the Beastie Boys. And then at the end, so it all kind of leads up to this gimmick where anytime two of them use their power, they all three switch positions. So swap where they are like in the world. So they learn a fighting style where they can do that. It's kind of fun visually.
That doesn't
None of
make
it makes sense. Like it's just
sense.
nothing but plot holes the
but you
entire
forget
time. The
though,
villain is not good.
you forget
But
Greg,
like
the Beastie Boys song. They only included it to get at the YouTubers that talked crap about Brie Larson.
I think
Because
so.
only
But
remember the key line.
I can't find any redeeming values in that first one. With this, it's like, yeah, there's like 3 fun scenes, and then there's another concept where there's like a million kittens for no reason. Yeah, like it. I can understand why people would like this, where I
No.
can't understand why people would like the other one. So I can kind of understand what Multi's saying. Like, if you literally shut off your brain, it's like, okay, like entertainment.
there's
But
a lot of going
kind of
on.
like Tiamat saying, it's for the consumer.
Let's
there's
hypothetically, by the way, just hold a sec. I heard our favorite consumer, Normie, Bob, said this on his stream the other day. So he was watching Anna, or that Star Wars girl, talk about how bad the Marvels is. And of course, we know Bob is a consumer. She goes, so you just introduced a bunch of an invasive species to the planet, not thinking about anything, being the Florkins. And then Bob's response was, there's always been invasive species on this planet, and Florkins were on the planet.
You understand? There's always been disease. There's always been war. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's not a great. It's not a great point.
Look, you missed. It was so interesting just watching him rationalize. He goes, "But I enjoy the Marvels, and it was good." I'm just like, God.
I will be honest. When it comes to media, I think Organized Chaos makes some points here and there, but when it comes to him reacting to other YouTuber, he doesn't try even to understand the point of view of the other one. He just want to contradict him because they don't like him. But anyhow,
no, but seriously, the thing I had an issue with the film is you're going to introduce more Florkins, and it's clearly the Florkins just eat people. That's the cat that ate damaged Nick Fury's eye.
Yeah, okay, and that's that's
cat with tentacles that come out of it. They do like a really stupid conceit, but also like their escape pod crashes into the Earth. The fact that like it ends with somebody just telling Captain Marvel, "Well, have you ever just thought of restarting a sun?" And she's like, "No, I've just been moping for years, but I've never thought of doing that." And then she does
power.
it. Like it's not a good movie. Like
that's weird. Okay.
You're buzzing a bit.
You did cut out. Yeah, unfortunately, it kind of cut out.
Okay,
it's just not a good film, but there's like action going on, and it's better than the previous one. I could see how people would call it somewhat entertaining.
Yes.
That being said, it feels like it's fast food of like movies. Like there is no substance
because
to
it's
it.
kind of like
I'm gonna go get my son's headset.
Okay, perfect.
So they gloss over the whole fact that Captain Marvel has light-based powers. And it's kind of like we can get into how Bob critiques films any day that's really bad, but it's like, oh, have you ever thought about using your infinite powers to restart a sun? And of course, the end of the film. The reason why I honestly know why it was going to be a dumpster fire was, oh, Monica Rambeau is binary instead of Carol Danvers after she has her Captain Marvel's powers sucked away by Rogue.
That's just interesting to me because it's one of my favorite arcs. But again, I really love X-Men, and I love when Rogue has the Danvers powers. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'm not sure how they're going to do that on
that's
film.
What binary is. She goes into space and she absorbs the powers of two suns, which amplifies her mutant powers through cosmic radiation.
Yeah, it's just as I'm not a fan of it, but I can understand why people would say this movie is entertaining, but not good. If you're just looking at the beats, it's like, okay, entertaining, cute, fine, whatever.
What's your thoughts on introducing the Florkins to Earth to be?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a horrible future, and I think they lost half the crew of that ship, and then again they crash landed.
No, they got swallowed.
Most of them should be dead.
There is no post-traumatic. They can remember to regurgitate the people, not digest them.
Yeah, well, they were kittens, so they don't know anything. I'm sure there was a lot of sacrifices that were made. Not everything went perfectly, but yeah.
How is this? How
Better.
is this?
We can
Okay.
actually hear you. That is okay.
Okay, it's his game headset, and I gave him tons of headsets because he's trying to be a YouTuber, and he gives me the crappiest one of all of them I bought him. So I was just making sure. Okay, my son's a brat, so.
It actually sounds really good.
No,
it
it
sounds a lot
sounds
clearer than it did
fine.
before.
Now we hear you loud and clear. That's amazing. Anyhow,
That's
right.
amazing.
Move on from 6 seconds. We've only made it 6 seconds into this 10-minute video. I don't know how long that's going to take us.
yeah,
now.
let's move on with the video. Yeah.
All right.
Marvel's flopping at the box office.
You didn't see that coming?
Because it can never just be the fact that the movie sucks. It always has to be because fans are quote unquote toxic. And that's why the Marvels apparently only brought in 47 million at the box office and also has a rotten critic
Okay,
score.
1 second,
And so,
by
of
the
course,
way. Hold on.
Pause. Yeah.
So, just get the idea. It was Disney with the critique of Star Wars with the fandom menace that said the toxic fandom.
Yeah, it looks like they were trying to pull that with this too, which sucks. I don't think it's the
That
fans'
was
fault
originally
that this
the
isn't
fandom menace, the
successful.
arguing against the argument of the fandom menace.
We can't even blame the fan. They are not the one making the movie, but here where we can blame some, I say some, not all. Some is how they push like narrative where the right is basically doing it, but yeah, they're basically we hate women or we hate diversity and that kind of stuff, and this is why they would hate that kind of stuff. This is why they would attack it and be more harsh on it.
And by the way, just for the whole little funny thing on this, is I heard people recently that she goes, so if you made Kamala Khan a celestial being or like a magical being, it would go into Arab mysticism and make her character racist.
Okay. That's really stupid stuff, but I guess American
You
are
forget
like that.
everything is sexist, everything's racist, everything is.
Hey,
You gotta point it out. So
the thing
That's
about
our job. We got to do that.
the thing about when you look at all three of these characters, like Kamala Khan was originally like envisioned as a metahuman who she wasn't a mutant. She just was probably descends from a gen. Like in Marvels, there's magical beings. She has gen-like genie powers. That's why she had magical powers or light-based powers.
okay,
But
I know something a little bit, not very much.
But I just want to say the fandom menace argument goes back to Disney made it with the sequel, criticizing of the sequel trilogies.
Yeah, and I'd like to add something else. It feels like the moment something is disliked because it's made by Disney, it's always a toxic fan fault. And the way they do it, it feels like they do that to like take off from the director or the writer shoulder the issues, and I think it's really stupid. If you put out a bad product, don't blame the reception of it for being a bad product. You gotta blame who's cooking it. Like
Do you remember the Woman King?
I've heard of it. I
So
was
the
never
Woman
interested
King
to
is
see it,
based
but
on the death of the Amazons.
yeah.
Even what it was called the black side of Twitter with a lot of the African Americans and the black people, they were go Hollywood. And this was like John Boyega, right? Who was famous for saying, I was had racism committed upon me, so that's why I don't get roles anymore. He went to go play in The Woman King, a king that used slavery as a means of production for his nation. And then they had, of course, the person who was the lead female actress, she goes, if you don't see this film, you don't like women in power or you're racist. And then Black Twitter broke us up, as it was known, and goes, why are you making a film glorifying slavery?
Wow.
Basically, her character gets even as the thing gets graped by the man, and she goes, oh, but that makes her stronger.
Wait. Okay.
The ending of the movie is awful too. Do you remember? Like, he saves her and freaking leaves him. He kills his best friend or something like that to save her, and then she just leaves. He loses everything to be with her, I guess, and she just walks away. She just looks at him and walks away, and it's just it's a bad
that
movie.
film is the thing is they altered the history of it. That's why I bring that up. They go, oh, that was sexist. No, this narrative doesn't fly. So
I will bring another example of like how stupid it is to blame the fans and not the writer or the people involved or the studio in that case, because the studio did butcher parts of it, I guess. But another example would be, okay, people making a video game. They don't playtest it. The game end up being really trash because they don't playtest it. They focus on story, not gameplay, and that kind of stuff. And then the player are criticizing the game, and they're saying your game is bad. There's glitches. The controls are bad. The time to play it is too short, or the time to play it is too long. That kind of excuse. I won't really go too deep into it, but it's like blaming the player that played the game for the game failure. Yes, it plays parts of it because reception is important and people are influenced by what they hear on the internet, but you, as someone that made this game, you have responsibility as well. And if you just blame the people that bought your game or that went in the theater to see it, then you're stupid. That's how I see it. I will give another example that maybe Sparkle may relate because she has kids. Like your kids plays a video game that is violent, and it turns violent, and you blame the game instead of the parenting for purchasing that game, if you know what I mean.
That doesn't make any sense. I don't do that at all. But I make sure I know what my kids are doing and watching. So they don't even have social media. We're never gonna get through this video. MTT. We're never gonna get through this video. You know that, right? We're never gonna get through it. You should let Great Plus play. We should try to get at least halfway.
Stir up some sort of controversy through baiting the Marvel's director Nia DaCosta with the loaded question of asking why fans are unhappy with the film and why fans are quote-unquote toxic.
Here we go again.
Yeah. And unfortunately for Nia DaCosta, she took the bait, with her responding by saying this: there are pockets that are really violent and racist and sexist and homophobic and all those awful things, and I choose the side of light. That's the part of fandom I'm most attracted to. Now, fair enough, except
I agree with her response. Her response is nothing hateful. If you found that hateful, maybe you watch too much of the hate content out there. What do you think, Miss Sparkle? What do you think of Nia DaCosta response?
Well, she's muted. So I don't know. It sounds a little self-congratulatory and like patting on the back. Like, you know, I'm choosing the side of good. Everybody else can choose the side of evil. I don't know. I get what she's saying, but I think that adding the side of light, I don't know. I think that could be said in a way that doesn't come off so arrogant and smug. I don't think that's going to play over well. I think it definitely should have been thought about before she kind of said it that particular way. But I think I understand what she's trying to say. And if you use a little bit of charity, perhaps she's not trying to say that she's better than everyone else. She just doesn't appreciate that other style of fandom. which I understand the message. I just think it could be said more eloquently, and it wouldn't infuriate a bunch of people. But the way that she just said that, I'm pretty sure people are not going to give her that charity.
I actually agree with you. You made a really good point. I didn't really thought of that. That's true. It feels like she won't listen to critique, but maybe I project too much into her. I think when you create something, when you're a writer or an artist in general, you should listen to everyone opinion, even if they didn't like it. And this is like, there are things you can take it or leave it. Like there are some people that don't have foundation to what they say and they just hate you for some reason, then don't listen to them. Or like, if someone has a genuine critique of your artwork, you should listen. That person is not there to tear you apart. That person is there to help out improving on your craft. But that's how I view things. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy. D Lord, what did you think of Nia DaCosta response? I guess he has nothing to say.
It would seem that way. Let's go on for just a little bit.
Yeah.
Perhaps we can see how the fans kind of take it, and
Yeah.
hopefully it's just, when they're saying director attacks toxic fans, hopefully it's just there. I hope it doesn't go further, but yeah, let's see.
Yeah.
The critiques about the Marvels are all about how the movie just sucks. And most reviews have nothing to do with gender or quote-unquote woke
True.
politics. The simple answer
Agree.
is the movie stinks. Because regardless if the movie was woke or not, when the CGI sucks and the writing sucks and the pacing sucks, guess what? The movie sucks. And even on my own review of the Marvels, I didn't mention anything to do with politics, because what made the movie bad was the movie itself, was the filmmaking aspects. And even I was attacked in the comment section of being a toxic fan and being a bigot, even though I mentioned.
So I think when people do that, it's because of the initiative or that kind of stuff, because they're like, oh, everyone are in the same bag now. You're against the movie, you're against us, and that goes back to tribalism, peer pressure, and that kind of stuff. What do you think of that, Gray?
It could be. I don't know. It depends on what people are attacking it for. Because, like, if they're attacking the director, but her initial vision, like even the version of the script is, like more than a third longer than they actually let the distributed product be, and she's basically disavowed it. I don't know. I don't think it would be fair to lay that on her, but I don't know that he necessarily did. I didn't see his review of it or anything like that. So I could see from somebody saying, like, you're not attacking the right people, but I don't know, switching it to just saying, like, it's too woke. I don't know. I think it's a really imprecise phrase. It's different what anybody means by that, but I think you're right. It is kind of that tribalistic, who are you listening to be like, let me guess, your argument's going to be this, instead of actually listening to it. I would like to see his review and see if he is blaming the director, because if they are, I don't know if that's necessarily
Remember
fair
the film was so
Tima?
remember the film was so bad that the Saintess Grace Randolph said it was a bad film.
and even me, like, I try to play devil's advocate on everything I watch, and as I said, there are parts of it I liked. I was entertained in most of it, but I don't think it's a good movie.
No, and I just want to give, Nia Costa a little bit more slack, I guess, because apparently she had two other versions that were closer to her vision. But, I don't know. How much credit would you take for something that you had to cut, like, I don't know, over a third out of? I can't see it being all her fault, but the amount of plot holes and the plot that I do not like, I don't think that was added to it. I think that is there. So I don't know. It's not a good film, but I just don't know if you can blame the director for all of it.
I think it's a lot of components.
I want
Studio,
to blame all of it. Sorry, Gray. I'm blaming her for everything. I want to blame her for all of it. I just want to argue with Gray.
But I'd say studio and her are both to blame on, and maybe the SGW crowd, like the defenders, they are right on one thing. The strike did affect press tour and the actresses and people involved to talk about that movie. So that aspect um is important to market your movie, and I can bet if they said even stuff to trigger like right-leaning people, that would get more buzz because more people would talk about it. So
Okay. I saw. Okay. Even Dimwit even made a good argument about this the other day. The strike may have played a part in some of the reason why marketing's failed. So, like, what is it? Steve Emile kind of like, what is he had like several different shows, like see him on the Contender and such. Like, you can only blame marketing so far because even before the writer's strike, they knew the Marvels was coming out. But to be fair, what is valid criticism of an upcoming movie?
yeah,
Can they take valid criticism? We already knew, just like the Dark Phoenix, the last Bryan Singer X-Men multi, like
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
it got reshot. Like it was redesigned a couple of times, reshot 2 to 3 times before the final product, just like this film.
Yeah,
And it turned out, and that was the last film before Disney took over Marvel officially.
wow. Okay.
So you get the idea of rewrites and redesigns can hurt a film.
Yeah. And I'd say like where we can blame the person is that she had different versions of the movie, and I think it's normal when you make movies, but the fact that none of her version were ended up being chosen, and that was the studio's version of it. It's an issue for both the studio and the person because maybe both of her versions she had were bad. But here we can only assume because we haven't seen it. But maybe both
It could
versions.
be.
Maybe
But
both.
like you'd have to think like she's not necessarily in charge of the effects. She's not necessarily in charge of casting. She
Yeah.
didn't write this script. Like it's very compartmentalized once it becomes this giant behemoth that is this, studio project.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, beyond just a movie, like, an average movie, the director would be involved in all this stuff, but this is like a machine. Like they're 30 whatever films deep into this. Like this isn't just like a standard business anymore. This is franchising.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting. I don't know how much blame she personally should take. That being said, so I want to cut her some slack, but that being said, it is not a good film, and I don't think 40 extra minutes would solve everything.
Me neither. I think it would have made the movie worse actually. Because
I'm not sure. I know I enjoyed it more than the first one, so I would cut her a little bit more slack, but I don't know.
I'd say
maybe I'm being too positive.
I'd say one of the aspects I liked from that movie it's fast. You just don't get bored. Maybe like pacing would be an issue in fact, because yes, I feel like maybe some of the aspect of the story could be more fleshed out, but
yeah, it doesn't stick with anything. Like the whole, does she actually learn does Miss Marvel actually learn a lesson about like you can't save everyone? It seems like they implied it and then just boom, moving on. And that was 2 seconds ago. Now we're good.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe there would be a pacing issue on a rewatch, but
I think so. But I think that's again, you're cutting out like a third of the movie. Like it's gonna have pacing issues by that time. But still, I don't think the script was strong, but I don't know how much the director gets control over the script. Like from hearing a lot of the trouble that Sam Raimi went through with the Multiverse of Madness, they had like sets pre-built, and they kind of jerked him around on like when he could actually like write a script or put it in there, and then it went into production, and he had to do it like basically in a weekend or something.
Wow,
Um,
that's stupid.
yeah, so I
That's
don't know.
stupid.
Like with him, I think he had a lot more control. But even then, it seemed like it's very little control. It seems like it is a business that, their job is making money. So I don't know. How can we make this make money? But the fact that they kept saying this won't make us money, we need a shorter, tighter script or version of it.
Stupid.
You're right. It probably wasn't amazing. Like, we assumed that they would be able to recognize, if they got the next, Civil War, if they got the next Infinity War, like any of these like major titles. But
It's kind of like my
I don't know.
criticism of like bowing to the video game industry. I asked if who controls more of the design now, the boardroom or the design teams? In
The boardroom.
the board. So if you say the funders in the boardroom has more influence in the current, like with design the video games, because they're not deferring to the studios that make the games themselves. So the boardroom just thinks how much money they're going to make. I think it's been the same way with movies, because I had a recent, just to give you one idea, I had a discussion with a friend. He lives in New York. I asked why are so many CEOs leaving big companies right now? Like, one, they say, oh, they're not earning enough, so they get rid of them, right? They're not meeting their sales goals. And I'm like, is that a far-fetched idea, or is that just different? So clearly, they have an idea of how much money something needs to make and a formula on how to do it. And they've been really bad on their actors, working their actors and their directors ragged to the point they started running projects into one another. Does that make sense? Like what happened to D&D Star Wars? It ran into so many issues, it was canceled. So you can look at this effect, and it gets to the point of how they handled the Marvels and the MCU going forward. They're having issues.
Yeah, I agree with that. So now you can push play. I think we
nothing to do with politics, because apparently, even as a fan, if you don't like a movie, somehow that makes you toxic. And honestly,
Agreed.
as a fan, I am sick of being blamed and called names because I'm unhappy with the direction that the MCU has gone. When for 10 years I praised the MCU and I called them the greatest thing that could have ever happened to the superhero genre, then when I turn around and say that the films have gone downhill in regards to the writing and the filmmaking aspects, I get called toxic. It is just ridiculous, because the reason these movies are even made in the first place is because there's a huge fan base. And the reason that Marvel made billions.
So, is there anything you disagree with based on what he said so far since last time we stopped? Anybody agree, D-Lord? Would you like to add more to what was told?
No, I think it kind of depends on what's going to happen from there. But yeah, I mean, like clearly he was a fan. I think we all were. There's a reason why, we're still talking about it. Like there is a love of what could be. It's just, not necessarily liking the direction that it's going. But I don't know. I'm just wondering where all of the hate goes to, because I could see a way of it being toxic. If you're putting all of this on the one director, it's like, come on, guys. Like this was planned out years in advance. This isn't just one person's vision of this.
Yeah.
It is a problem with committee.
It took multiple films. The payoffs with Avengers was you had a legacy of films that you could build towards. Oh, do you remember that one cutscene at the end of Thor that showed a gauntlet? Like, that scene. It was the end of Thor.
Yeah.
Like,
I honestly haven't thought about that. Was that a tie-in?
That is the Infinity Gauntlet. We're like,
Oh, really? I actually
Oh,
can't remember.
yeah, sorry, the Infinity Gauntlet. Sorry, when you said Gauntlet, for some reason I was thinking Bracer. I was thinking the
they
Bangle.
showed the
Shirt. I was
one in
like, I didn't
Asgard. That was
think
one
about
of the
this at all.
original Infinity.
Yeah, I remember that
And
now.
you're like,
yeah.
oh shit, they're actually going to do the Infinity Saga.
Yeah, I thought, no way, it's just an Easter egg. But yeah, and I loved when they actually did it.
And they
Sort
built
of. I
on
wish they
top
had
of
done the
that.
other one, but
They built on top of that going into the films. One would do that. That's what made a lot of those films. So you didn't have to spend time doing backstory because it fed into the next film. If
Yeah.
that makes sense, Multi.
Yeah,
You had
yeah.
a teaser for it. Maybe it was a throwaway
hey,
line.
we got a teaser in this one. There's 2 franchises that are going to come off of this: Young
Yeah,
Avengers
Deadpool 3.
and now the Fox version is in there. Hey,
Yeah.
amazing.
But
Okay.
I feel that was like product placement from the studio and not necessarily Nia DaCosta, these two things.
That was
Uh,
product placement for Disney Plus.
yeah, yeah. And this is an issue because this is the board talking and not necessarily the people making it. So this is something we can point out. And I don't consider myself a toxic fan, and I didn't like the movie. And the main reason why I don't consider myself a toxic fan, it's because I can be nuanced. And I said in the past, Miss Marvel, I think it's a bad show, but Miss Marvel character was great. So I have that kind of nuance, and Moon Knight had potential that kind of got wasted. I like to give the benefit of the doubt. I like to give enough rope for the people to jump, and sometimes they do playing with the rope. If you know what I mean.
It goes back to the when, if you remember Battle, I brought this up with I think it was a Renowned stream. He was talking about video games. We were how directors do projects. So on Battlefield 5, they go, it's not historic. We want a historically accurate battlefield. Okay. They show a female sniper with a prosthetic. Okay. Battle Royale. Why? This is the Battlefield fans at the time. Us speaking. Like, we're like, we love Battlefield more than we love COD. If you get the idea. Then the director hears about the criticism of it. If you don't like the game, don't buy it. Okay. Boom. They blame us for not buying the game, why Battlefield 5 had its support cut early. Yeah. Did you ever hear that?
Yeah, I can see it. I haven't heard it, but I can see it.
They blamed us. You can go back and find the article. Someone on the director said, if you don't like the direction of this game, don't buy it.
Well, we don't,
Okay.
and you flop.
You didn't want to market to us? You don't buy your game.
So you can click play now. I think that video I agree
dollars
with
off
a lot.
multiple movies over the course of 10 years is because the fans loved the projects. So no, fans aren't the problem. It's the movie's problem. It's the studio's problem. And when most fans don't like a film, that just means the movie isn't good. And now
use ad block,
it's not
sir.
all Nia DaCosta's fault in regards to this interview,
Never.
as she was asked a loaded question and the journalist knew what they were doing, but there are definitely more respectful ways to go about it, as shown here by Henry Cavill when he was asked basically the same question.
I'm curious if that's comparable to this sort of world, this culture of toxic fandom, where like if you make a movie, especially if you make a superhero movie, like you have great intentions, but there are always going to be a small yet vocal group of people there can kind of just be toxic.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
need
D-Lord.
something on this.
Yeah.
This interview right here, like what happened with The Witcher, you got to think about it, right? Love or hate parts of Henry Cavill in his thing, you have to understand.
Everyone loves Henry Cavill. Okay.
Some people just don't like his portrayal of Superman. I fondly remember, I have to say this, I remember him throwing a hissy fit when he read the script when Batman was going to beat his ass.
Well, I mean, he's Superman.
Because he felt Superman should never lose to Batman.
Oh, not in the sunlight.
So, you're laughing, but that's actual
That's
thing.
true.
This is funny because he's never seen it. But then again, in 40K, he's also a custody player. So
yeah, but you kind of want them to be passionate for the character and kind of have,
that's besides
some
the point.
sort of.
That's besides the point.
At some point, I think it gets too far. Like Edward Norton apparently had a huge passion for playing the Hulk, but it was to the point where he would like rewrite the script and really change it on the spot.
So
I don't know. Like there is a line that you don't want them to cross.
You guys need to cover maybe on an episode, or we could do it, Gray. I recommend
it would totally be worth it because I do remember this. The interviewer is totally leading it, and it would be worth going into further.
Because the point he brings up has been the defining line how to deal with fandoms.
Yeah. I remember what he said, and I fully agree with what he said. I think Henry Cavill has charisma, and he is smart about what he says because he tries his best to please both sides. And this is someone that's very smart. Because if you lean one side or the other, you will get so much unnecessary heat, like Brie did when she did her stupid comment that was parodied, and that kind of stuff.
I don't know. Let's hear like how much of it they include in this, because I got a feeling he doesn't include like the whole thing. But let's let Henry speak because it was a profound response.
But when it comes to fans, it is a fan's right to have whatever opinion they want to have. And people are going to be upset because, especially when you're talking about books or games, because you're never going to be the exact person who they had in their head or who they played on Witcher 3, for example. I don't necessarily consider that toxic. I just consider that passionate.
Because as Henry Cavill says here, fans aren't the problem. All fans do is react to what movies are released. So if you're going to blame them for the recent Marvel performance at the box office and with the reviews, then why weren't fans praised for the billions of dollars that Marvel made over its 10-year peak?
I'm just trying to work that out. I mean,
gotcha.
You have got me.
Because during that 10-year run...
Yes.
So I don't know that he necessarily has got them there. Like it feels like it's a non sequitur. So you can still be toxic by going after the director instead of going after the overall vision that they're doing with this. The whole idea of the MCU didn't come from her. Like you can be toxic in how you're going about this is the problem. So I don't think like, no, the fact that I'm passionate means like I can't be called toxic. I don't know. That feels like it's excluding a lot, excusing a lot.
Disney never learned because, in Endgame, do you remember the big battle sequence? Did you see it?
I've seen all of the first 3 phases. It's only like starting.
So the big battle scene at the end, where they show all the female Avengers syncing up to fight. Remember that?
Yeah.
Everyone knew that was pandering, as well as they were planning a female Avenger team later on. And there was immediate pushback from the fan base on that. Because going forward, right, this is what we knew about the Marvels. Steve Rogers let himself grow old, go back in time. Tony Stark was dead. So Captain Marvel was going to form the Avengers. And they thought that was a good idea. Oh, that's right. Scarlet Witch was dead. Not Scarlet Witch. Scarlett Johansson's character was dead too.
Black Widow and Hulk was injured, and Hawkeye was retired.
But hey, young adventures. But I think there's a way that it could be toxic. So I don't know. I just feel like it's excusing a lot. But I would still like to hear the rest of his point.
When Marvel were at the top of their game, it was the studio that was getting praised. It was the creatives that were getting praised. Then all of a sudden, when the review scores drop and the box office numbers drop, it's not their fault, it's the fans' fault. So where was this energy when Marvel was succeeding? Where was this energy for the fans when they were actually creating good projects and making billions at the box office? How come fans weren't the reason for Marvel's success, yet all of a sudden they're the reason for Marvel's downfall? And where were these toxic fans when it came to movies like Black Panther that made over $1 billion? When it came to movies like Spider-Man Far From Home that made...
So, Black Panther was 2018, and I think that's the shifting year where the anti-woke crowd really started complaining about woke stuff, or maybe that was a year later. I can't remember, but I think the like that part of the internet wasn't really there back then. I think it became a thing really like with Phase 4 coming in, and like after No Way Home, like that kind of stuff. I think it spawned a lot of things, even with Captain Marvel, which was Phase 3, but that was near the end, and they still like Endgame, I think, outside of that scene. So maybe that's why Black Panther didn't get some kind of backlash, because I can bet the backlash would be the same if the anti-woke crowd had some kind of power back then in 2018.
I'll say Black Panther. The reason what's weird is I have to maybe talk about the phases of it, how they did the Avengers films. Like that could be something we could do, Gray or Multi. You guys should look into, because Black Panther was an anomaly. Like, I wasn't a Black Panther fan, but they wrote Black Panther in such a way that the film made me semi-like the character.
Yeah. Well, in the future on the Red Blue podcast, we will cover the MCU. Right now, we focus a lot on Marvel TV shows like Cloak and Dagger and stuff, but in 2024 we will cover MCU stuff, DCU, because we mainly covered like DC TV shows. We haven't covered, like, outside of the Flash and Blue Beetle, there's no DC movie I remember covering on our podcast. So yeah, we like the idea of the Red Blue podcast is really like we try our best to implement at least 2 or 3 comic book related topic among the bunch, and most of the time it's Marvel or DC.
I would
because they're the
focus it
biggest.
a little bit more. The problem with the DC EU, it's always been cursed. It just...
What is it? The fandom? Is it that toxic fandom that's cursing it?
I don't think so in the case of DCU, because
it's really the directors in it.
Yeah.
It's literally
And
like
the inconsistency to me. I have no idea what I'm going to get from movie to movie.
What
the studio is the biggest blame.
Marvel magic work was you had actors you could sign on for 4 films. DC couldn't get that. Like Nolan clearly said, I'm not designing a film to go into Justice League. So they had to redesign a Batman film to make it work. And ever since then, they're like, well, you get one actor. They can't get an actor to stay on more than one film. That's why Marvel...
But they've had that issue for a long time.
But that's why, like, actors handle it.
After Keaton, we had the forgettable one, and then we have George Clooney.
What do you mean, Val Kilmer? Val Kilmer is not forgettable.
Okay, Val Kilmer. Oh, yeah, he is. Sorry,
George Clooney?
George Clooney is not forgettable because it was awful, but I forgot about Val Kilmer. Well, I remember the movie, how bad it was.
Nipple Suit Batman. No, Nipple Suit Batman.
We will cover these. When we get to DCU stuff, we will cover these
But
movies.
you're talking something different, right? So like Black Panther to me, but they also handicapped Black Panther in its growth as well because they killed off Killmonger. They had no other villains. Like
Well, they had the Claw. Oh wait,
you should have actually had Killmonger stay alive so he could. So if Black Panther's power comes from the goddess Bast, Killmonger eventually gets the power of the white gorilla, which is another god. They could have wrote that in. I bet you two didn't know that.
I didn't.
I'm honestly not. I'm a normie. I know about
Because
Me too.
and a
you
little
only
bit
have
of
two
the
origins.
lure before.
You only have two origins for Black Panther. One is he's basically Batman, powered by vibranium.
Well, I kind of dug this one, which
The heart
it's a
fruit
little
can only
mysterious.
choose one. Like the idea is they get the power. The chosen one has the heart fruit, and there can only be one Black Panther at a given time. Or you can have a mix, which they do now, of where Bast, the power comes from something given to them by Bast, which is the Egyptian cat god.
Yeah, I kind of dig this, but yeah, I guess I don't know. I feel like some people were attacked for the way that Wakanda Forever was received. But I don't think it's weird. I don't think fans are ever congratulated because a movie did well. Like, I don't know, Barbie was just the biggest selling one or whatever. Did anyone congratulate the fans of
No.
Barbie? I don't know. I think that's an ask that's a little bit unrealistic.
Yeah. You can now play.
Over $1 billion. And where were these toxic fans for a movie like Black Widow, which even though it came out during COVID, still made a big number at the
10
box
years too
office,
late.
still made a profit, and got great reviews.
I give it to you. You got me there.
Right.
So no,
Pause.
it's not a fan problem.
I don't know. By that time, I was really like listening to these anti-woke crowds, so I have bad reference. But is it true that it was well received, Black Widow?
It wasn't that badly received. Like,
Yeah, but
it's
they
a
really
10-year. It's a 10-year late. Because
This I
so
agree.
very much late. She was strung along. She had to like sue them for extra parts of it, and then they really, really killed the whole idea of Taskmaster. There were a lot of aspects with it that were not good, and then passing on the torch. I don't know. There were a lot of aspects that I think people criticized correctly in it. But I don't know. I hadn't heard that this is just like woke or anything like that. But again, I don't know why the audience would get praised because this did well. It just seems like an interesting way that he's framing this.
Yeah.
it didn't do as bad. The problem is the Black Widow film is supposed to feed in-game.
Yeah.
And where it ends, sorry, apologize if I cut you off.
Oh, that's fine.
The idea is when I said it's about 10 years too late, it ends clearly because the film takes place post-Civil War, between a Civil War and between the Avengers film.
Okay.
And that's its period that it's based on.
It should have been like made before Endgame, to be honest. Like that movie should have been in place of Captain Marvel, based on what I've heard.
Basically, a little fun fact: the father that it plays her father is a mutant.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I guess we might find that out in
But they
Thunderbolts
could,
or whatever.
Yeah.
I will be curious if they say that's the thing. I don't even know if Thunderbolt.
Yeah, I know nothing about it.
I know
let's
it.
go on
I-
a little bit, because I think it's just that unfair ask of like, okay, but this did well, so why aren't they getting praise? Like, why? I don't know. I would kind of like to hear like the rest of his
Yeah.
point on this.
Okay, play.
Fans aren't toxic. It's always the movie's fault, and that's why fans are reacting in such a negative way, because clearly these movies have taken a turn for the worst when it comes to the actual filmmaking aspect and the writing of these stories. Because in regards to the whole quote-unquote woke argument, I think this problem is more due to a lack of balance and a lack of good writing. Because rather than try and grow their female audience through increasing focus on well-written characters like Black Widow or Scarlet Witch or even Miss Marvel, while also continuing to develop the male characters that fans had grown accustomed to and had grown a connection to, like Doctor Strange, like Spider-Man, and like Hulk.
My.
Doctors are
They
not
just
allowed
did
anymore.
a full 180 and put
God,
about
Gray.
80% of their focus on adding new female characters to the MCU as fast as possible. And one problem with that is the fact that they cast away
you
many
forgot
male
that you
characters that had
constructed,
already been built up for 10 years, and fans got angry that they were being pushed to one side. But another problem with that is that in them trying to produce as many new female characters as possible, they rushed the projects. And we ended up with badly written, horribly paced, and terrible looking shows like She-Hulk and movies like The Marvels. Because the problem with those movies and those shows isn't the fact that it's a female-led project. The problem is that the CGI, the writing, the pacing, the performances, basically everything to
CGI
do
was
with the film
perfect.
itself and the cinematic
In this
aspects
movie.
I will
just
click
weren't
pause.
good
I will click
because
pause.
Joe, pause.
I'd like.
The CGI was perfect in She-Hulk. How dare you?
I'd like to.
I mean, it was
something.
stunning and brave.
I-
Sorry, go right ahead, Multi, and then I got a little something to add to that.
Okay, so what I wanted to add is my personal taste. I don't know how familiar both of you are with the TV show Stargirl that was made recently from 2020 to 2022. Are you familiar with
Zero
it?
familiarity.
I'm
I
familiar
don't know
with it. It's not
Okay.
bad. It's
I adore this show. This is one of my
Right.
favorite comic book TV show out there, and I will say this. I plan on making a video on it, but
You
anyhow,
mean the CW one? Yes?
yeah. I really like this show a lot, and CGI wasn't always great, but I'm not the kind of people that will bash something for not great CGI. I did for She-Hulk because She-Hulk was really horrendous, but I also did it with She-Hulk because She-Hulk was just bleeding of issues and had just so many issues with it that it's just piled up, you know. And with Stargirl, that was female-led. That was just a well-written show with really good character I really like. And the CGI wasn't always great, but I was so invested with the characters and the story within these 3 seasons that I just disregarded sometimes the CGI not being that amazing. I'm conscious that it's not the best CGI out there, but I didn't hold it against the show because I was just entertained.
Even if you held it against the show, like that would be reasonable. It would be like, hey, this show didn't do the best. But would you hold it against the director? Like, I think that's the issue that I keep having with his criticism. Like, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with it, but if that's all thrown on this one lady, it's like, come on, they have the arcs of these characters where they need to be. They even have, like, from what we learned from like Raimi's horrible experience with it, they actually had sets built that he then had to work into like his version of the script. I just don't know how much like control you really have. Like, they keep handcuffing you, and then it appears she didn't even have control as to like the cut on it. She's in control of certain aspects of it, but I don't see like the lighting, the framing. I don't know, even like, you know, the choice of lens. Like, I don't generally see that getting criticized. It does seem to be like the writing of it. And I don't know. I'm just not sure how much of it she actually would be responsible for.
I can see
And
the
then
point.
when you hear the issue with the cuts, it's like we even see less of her vision. But yeah,
That's a really good point. We can blame the studio on that. I'd say like the biggest reason why, for example, Stargirl didn't have the best CGI out there, it's because it's CW, so the budget was limited, and that's the thing. But here again, I said it. CGI wasn't always awful, but it wasn't always perfect. But yeah, it's the studio. It's whoever is giving that money, whoever is working on it. Are they overworked? Are they invested in the project? Do they care about that project? Do they want the project to succeed? Um, these are all questions that are really important to ask. Um, do they believe in the project? That's another thing. Like, if you only hear negative, maybe you will start thinking negative because peer pressure, because that's all we are as people. Like,
for sure. And
if
then
it,
apparently with this too, like if people are mocking the CGI on it, a lot of people are talking about specifically the post credit scene. The problem is that was super rushed. Apparently it was like beyond reshoots. It was like a afterthought onto how to tie everything together. But people are really mocking like specifically the look of Beast. I don't know. I'm not sure that the director is to blame for that. Like that just I don't know.
that's not fair. Yeah, that you made a very good point. I liked. Great. So, D-Lord, do you want to add more?
Well, I will say, like, how they initially planned, it's like post in game had a really weird thing. Like, you would have thought they would have built upon WandaVision, which would have introduced maybe a theme. Like, oh, Multiverse of Madness is about the multiverse. WTF, out of nowhere. What does it do with that? Then they did Spider-Man No Way Home. Where there's this, it's like a directionless, rudderless, indirectionless. Like there's no continuity, no nothing. So none of these shows feed into each other of any kind, or they're just agenda driven. Like you could have touched upon how something happens, if that makes sense. But that's not happening, and it's weird. Like She-Hulk is touted as both meme-worthy because
And amazing.
I'm sorry. I know you like the Megan Gray. You have told me before you love the twerking scene.
Oh, Megan the Stallion. Yeah, I love it when she
And
is
the
the best
bad
part of that entire
CGI
series.
She-Hulk twerking.
Oh, it was flawless. What are you talking about? Um, it's
But
not well made. The thing is, I don't know who
look at the
directed that episode, but I'm
CGI
not
in
going to
this.
go after them.
Like this
I'm just going to
scene,
say that show was not
okay,
good.
here's where the show kind of misses a point, right? This scene, particularly right here on the beach, she's like, I'm better than you, Bruce. I never had to deal with a childhood drama of like you had to deal with your abusive father.
No, but she was catcalled, so
She throws the root. So she throws a rock, does whatever. Hulk's clearly restraining himself. Oh, you can throw a boulder further than me? Hulk eventually, at the end, the only one of the redeeming was he picks up a boulder. She has walked away. He's kind of mad. Just flicks it off into Never Never Land.
yeah.
But they don't show that.
If it is part of an arc that they're actually going to make her like realize like, okay, she does need to learn to control this, that would be awesome. That's not what we got out of this, but it seems to be how some people are trying to imply that. I don't know. To me, that just means that it wasn't done well. I'm not going to blame one particular director. I'm sure there were multiple. I'm sure there were multiple writers on this. What ended up on the screen was not good, is all I'll say on that. But Yeah, I guess let's keep going a little bit further.
Because they were rushed. Because you even had an Oscar-winning actress in Brie Larson, and regardless what your opinions are of her, she's definitely a talented actress. She's a good performer, and even she doesn't look good in the Marvels because they rushed these movies. They didn't write them well. The actors have nothing to work with, and the editing was also rushed. So of course nothing turns out well because you're simply trying to push out these projects as fast as possible in order to get out as many female-led projects, and it just made them worse, and it made the quality take a huge dip to what Marvel fans were used to over the last 10 years. So like I said, the real problem here is in the writing, because there's nothing wrong with a female character as long as they're well written and developed, and especially don't come in expense of other characters that fans have grown accustomed to for over a decade. Because we've seen characters like Hulk, Spider-Man, Nick Fury, and Thor just cast away and pushed to one side and ignored, even though fans love them. Even though they're special characters that everyone enjoys, they somehow thought that they needed to push them to one side in order to bring up more female characters. When of course, you could have just woven in more female characters into the MCU while still developing the great characters that they had and the characters that were making them a lot of money at the box office. Because one
So that's a really good point, and that feels like fair criticism. And I do want to point out he did later on say that it is the system that they're doing that's pushing these out. They're not actually individually looking at this. Awesome. I think that's fair criticism. I think there is a way that it could be toxic. What he said there doesn't sound toxic to me at all. It sounds like he's looking at it and being like, no, this is something I love. But due to the way that they're doing it now, it doesn't feel like they're actually showing the love back. It feels like they are now propping this up instead of weaving this in. Like, that seems like an awesome idea. That is kind of what I was saying as well. It's like, I don't think we'd be opposed to any of these female characters, but it feels like they're literally like pushing these others down to raise these others up. And I don't know. It just doesn't seem as entertaining to me.
I agree with everything you said, and I will add more. I will go back to Stargirl because this is my favorite female-led comic book IP, at least. And in that show, none of the guys are like put aside. Like, there's more women in that show because I think the target audience were young women, but like there were still like really strong male characters, and they all did their part. They all had their story to play in. So what's going on, D-Lord? I'm kind of distracted. I guess
He
okay.
might be accidentally unmuted. I'm just gonna mute him really quick.
Yeah. So yeah, I got distracted, but yeah, when you treat every character the same way, like nobody will point out that, oh, you emasculated that man, or oh, that man took a backseat. Treat every character the same way. That's as simple as that. And give them material. Just if you do that, you will end up with a really good product.
For sure. And hopefully it won't alienate the existing fan base at the expense of a potential new one. That seems to be a lot of the criticism that I see with a lot of these interesting choices that a lot of businesses are making. And I hear a bunch of people criticizing Marvel in that same way.
Yeah. Fair point, fair critique. So you can now play.
While maybe you wouldn't have introduced as many female characters in just 1 year, you could have introduced the same amount of female characters over the course of 3 to 5 years, but they would have spaced out the projects and given them enough time to actually be of a high quality and be able to weave them in between movies like Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, that way allowing all the characters we love to still develop and to still be loved and to grow even more fans, while also bringing in these new female characters that would have also increased the female.
I agree with what he said, but something came up to my mind. I feel like maybe it's the board talking. Maybe the board is like, female cell. Let's do that, guys. MCU, now you need to push that many strong female character on the forefront. And maybe that's why we end up with that
Well, and
result.
that's one of the issues with having it like this, like such a large company where you do have to come up with kind of what the next arc is going to be, and you have to kind of predict, like, okay, so female-led everything, like girl power right now is the big thing, but this next phase is like 10 years down the road. Like, is that going to be, I don't know, the best thing for the friend? Like, I don't know. A little bit of it is kind of fortune telling and gambling, essentially. Um, maybe there was a moment where they did like a poll or something, and it seemed like that was the correct direction. It just sucks. I don't think they're able to kind of pivot away from that. I don't know. I think they're kind of locked in is one problem, but yeah, it is kind of interesting.
Yeah, you can play. D-Lord, are you back?
male audience that they were clearly trying to attract, because of course they know having more females watching the movies as well as the men will allow them to make even more money at the box office. So of course that's why they were trying to do it, but it's backfired and they're making less money at the box office now because, like I said, they rushed the projects and the projects just sucked. And when you take politics out of the equation, they still suck because the cinematic aspects just aren't of a high quality. And so all in all, when you really look,
I agree with everything you said.
I guess it just depends what you mean by cinematic aspects. Because again, it's like, it's not like the shots, like the camera angles, the lighting, like the sound. It's not like all of these suck, but it's like individual elements. So it's like the sound design, like the actual like music that is composed for this. It does sound somewhat generic. I don't know how much control the actual director has over it. If she chose everything, then yeah, maybe she does have more blame. But from what I understand with previous projects, they don't have a lot of say in it. But like when he talks about like the cinematic aspects, like before he talked about like writing and stuff, I don't know. I'm just not sure how much of the writing she is responsible for. Like they have these beats that they have to hit so that everybody's in wherever place for the next show, the next phase, the next whatever. I think you're kind of tied your hands, and then I think they probably have certain set pieces, and it's like, okay, connect these pieces, go. I don't know how much of that really is on the director, but it sounds like he's actually blaming the franchise, which is awesome. That is kind of the way that it should be. So I don't know. I just wish he'd be more specific when he said like cinematic aspects, or I can't remember the exact wording.
Yeah, I agree with you. You made really good points. So this video, I think, so far is really good. Well, so far we are almost done with it, but I guess you can play the rest now.
look at this situation with the MCU, with the Marvels, this is a creative problem. This is a production problem. This is a studio problem at Marvel, and it's definitely not a fan problem because all they do is react and have an opinion to the movies that are released, and they had good opinions on movies that were released for over a decade, and now they have bad opinions on movies that have been released recently because guess what? They're just not good. But what are your thoughts on the situation? Let me know down below in the comments. If you like the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all on my next video.
Yeah, and yeah. So these are really fair points.
I'm definitely giving him a like, and I wasn't fair to him in the beginning when I was saying it depends if he's putting that all on the director, which is what I got from the title of that, is why I thought he was putting it all on the director. I didn't hear him do that. So I do owe him an apology for that. I thought it was awesome, a lot of his criticism. But sorry for cutting you off.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. But I agree with this video. This video, I placed it there because I was like, oh, that will be interesting to react to and to cover. Because it, like, the culture war, I'm excited about that stream if it ever happens, and maybe eventually I will just throw the towel and say, you know what, we are still doing it without the left lens. I don't think it will be a fair discussion because one side will be misrepresented, but at some point things gotta happen. So like, so far it will be like mid-December, but if we still don't find someone, we will postpone it to January. But I think January will be like the moment, regardless whether we find or not. someone, and in the worst case, if we find someone eventually later down the road that is willing to talk, we could do like a part 2 or something.
For sure. I think either of those would work. But hopefully there's a Christmas miracle or pre-Christmas miracle, and someone wants to talk about this from a left perspective.
Yeah,
But,
and it's just sad because I think it's fascinating. The culture war is interesting. It doesn't affect us as much as you guys here in Canada, because I think we were much more open than you guys. Like when you go on countryside, especially in Quebec, like when you go on countryside, this is the more close-minded places because this all they were born and raised. But
we've got a lot of close-minded places here too. But yeah, it does seem like people got real swept up in it, where perhaps you guys stayed a little bit more level-headed. But yeah, I'd be interested to kind of get your opinion on it from the outside.
Yeah, and
so to speak.
it's also linked at some extent peer pressure, because
Yeah, exactly. And so is some of the criticism in this, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, I made a lot of assumptions going into this, and all of them were wrong. So I thought this was a really cool video. I don't think I would have checked this out on my own.
Yeah, and like when you got an echo chamber, the echo chamber is based on peer pressure. Like you don't have a echo chamber when people have different opinion, or when you let other people have different opinion. So peer pressure clearly has something to do with echo chamber, because you're like, oh yeah, these people, they all think the same, they all talk the same. So yeah, that was very fun. I'm glad Miss Sparkle joined in again.
For sure. It's always fun to have her. And I'm very honored that Tiamat also graced us with his D-Lord presence.
Yeah, thank you, D-Lord.
I'm still here.
So
well, we appreciate that.
What did you think of the video, D-Lord? Because we paused a few times and you seem to be away. So what did you think of the
just
video overall?
away. It's fine.
So what did you think of the video overall, based on what you have seen?
I agree with most of it. The criticism.
Is there a big thing you disagree with?
No, not really.
And D-Lord, you're amazing. Thank you again. You guys are great. We are making the show. It's always fun. And D-Lord, if you know like people that are interested into our discussion like that, feel free to add them to the chat we have on Discord, and we will have them on. Like I'm always happy to meet new people. Like I do YouTube because I enjoy other people's presence. And
can I say something? When
yeah.
I get accused of others by people who are clearly followers, I do. If anyone sees this, I get really tired of people who are two-faced YouTubers or orbiters. And I'm not going to go into names. You can defend your streamer daddy. You can do this. But if you want to call someone a lolcow, be thankful I don't do down the rabbit hole projects on people. You don't know about that, but
I have no idea about that.
I
don't know what you're talking about.
I think a lot of this content, like when you see me, like people who see me, I prefer to do stuff that is happy versus deconstruction of others.
Yeah,
but I could quickly turn my talents around. I like constructive conversations, even if it is debates. But I keep that.
Okay, that's interesting. As I said, if you know anybody, D-Lord, don't be shy. Add them to the Discord chat. Same goes for you, Gray. If you know people,
I know nobody. I'm sorry.
You know nobody.
I don't know nobody.
I hope eventually one day A-Base will join us. That could be wonderful. Anyhow, What do you have going on, D-Lord, on your side of the internet?
Oh, me and Gray have some projects, and Patrick will return probably in January.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
like the
that's
great phoenix, he shall rise again.
that
Indeed.
far? Why is it so far? Is
Because
girlfriend
he's a
taking
busy
you
man. You know,
all this
things
time?
happen. But yeah, I think this Friday, Tiamat and I are going over some fun news stories. So yeah, I think that's the next thing that both of us have going on.
And then we do
Oh,
have
other than Thinkers tomorrow. Yeah,
you have Thinkers tomorrow.
yeah, that
and
darn
then
kiddish
you
channel,
have
the
others.
Thinkers.
Yeah. This is always very interesting. I sometimes I lurk around and watch and hear what people are thinking. Um, anyhow, that was fun. I liked the episode this week. Next week we will cover body positivity because we were not able to find a left-leaning person. So body positivity, I'm looking forward to do this, and I hope you still have your video ready because when we talked about diet, we talked
Yes,
about
I have the perfect one. This will be awesome. Let's do this. I'm looking forward to next week.
hell yeah.
Always a pleasure talking to you, Multi, and you too, Tiamat. This is a fun time.
Yeah, I cannot
Catch
wait for
you
next
after.
week.
Yes.